Hello and welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Explore our playlist for more captivating novels, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new audiobook. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 41 Official Dilemma. Suppress the premonition that is unknown in my heart. Su Wu continued to look at another announcement. That one is more of a mission reward than an announcement. The official shelter in Zhonghe City took out supplies worth 15 million yuan as a reward. Publish employment tasks for all business and individual shelters. The tasks include cleaning up ground roads, assisting the official construction of underground farms and breeding farms, exchanging designated items, etc. Among them, clearing the ground road is the big end. The official even specially planned dozens of routes to be cleaned for this purpose, and specifically selected the rewards in meters. So anxious. Su Wu was slightly surprised, but soon he figured out the key. Although the current official shelter in Zhonghe City is connected to each other through an underground passage. But most of them were temporary emergency work, narrow passages less than 1 meter wide. Walking is allowed at most, or toy trains pulled from the amusement park. The efficiency of material transportation is almost negligible compared to the size of millions of people. When there is an emergency, we still need to rely on ground roads for deployment and mutual support. In other words, the ground transportation system is essentially still the lifeblood of the current official shelter. Even if they pay a huge price, they must be kept smooth. Understand the official attitude. Su Wu was no longer so anxious. He took on the task of clearing the road, then weighed it a little, and decided to remove the engineering team from the recruitment queue, send only large trucks and special transport vehicles, and 2 construction robots out to perform the task. Going out now is a very risky thing. As the only systematic construction team in Su Wu's hands, the engineering team is very precious and important in expanding the shelter. No matter what considerations are made, even if you may gain excess returns, you should not take risks with them. Next, the engineering team went back and continued to dig the 4th underground floor of the shelter. The reconnaissance drone formation is responsible for providing routes and air warnings for outgoing cleaning teams. There are also construction robots, and we continue to stay on the ground to build small bunkers. Simplify the work of the shelter one by one. At this time, Su Wu felt extremely deeply the lack of labor force in the shelter. There are a total of 7 construction robots, 2 of which must go out with the vehicle, and 2 must return to the engineering team to ensure that the engineering team can operate efficiently. There are only 3 units that can truly stay on the ground and carry out bunker construction. En Sante, this is the attitude of preparing to work until the end of the day. We have to expand the team. I looked at the survival point in my hand. There are basically no particularly large investments these days, but because of all kinds of trivial matters, the number of points of survival spent is quite large. So far, only 25 survival points have been saved. According to Su Wu's original idea, these survival points should be stored as first aid funds at the bottom of the box, and they will be taken out to help their lives in the crisis. But now, he has changed his mind. Survival points are trump cards, and refuges are also trump cards. Build a powerful refuge as soon as possible and you can still be fearless of danger. So use it when it should be used. Use all the 25-point survival points. To add 5 construction robots. Since he decided to use the reserved survival point, Su Wu did not quit. I directly intend to invest all the survival points in the manufacturing of construction robots. The working efficiency of construction robots is not as high as that of professional mechanical equipment. But its human-shaped body is almost enough to do most of the job. No matter how much you create, there is no risk of saturation. On the contrary, every additional one will definitely significantly increase the construction speed of various projects of a shelter. It can be regarded as a universal tool second only to engineering robots. Manufacturing Center. The 2 engineering robots that received the order from Su Wu to manufacture immediately entered the working state. They remove materials from the warehouse and cut and smell. Weld the skeleton of the construction robot bit by bit from scratch. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Because the raw materials used have been screened and processed in advance, the entire process progresses rapidly. On average, 1 construction robot model can be found in 1 hour, and it was born in the hands of these two engineering robots. Su Wu paid attention to the manufacturing progress throughout the whole process. Every time the engineering robot completes one, he will go to the manufacturing center and use the survival point to activate the construction robot. Then immediately send it to the ground and join the team building the bunker. No waste of time. After a few hours, the ground where the farmyard was originally located was restored to its liveliness. With the joint efforts of the engineering team's concrete mixers, micro-excavators and micro-transport vehicles, gradually formed at a speed visible to the naked eye, with the joint efforts of 8 construction robots, and the concrete mixers, the first floor of the small bunker was gradually formed. At this speed, 2 more hours. The first floor of the bunker can be completed. Seeing that my Krypton money increased my labor force, I brought obvious results. Su Wu felt a little satisfied. Unlike the concrete walls of the underground shelter that are 1 meter thick, this small bunker built on the ground has a wall thickness of only 20 centimeters. No construction waste is used for filling. In this way, although the cost is no longer needed to be reinforced with the survival point, the cost is reduced a lot, so every time a layer is covered, you have to wait for 8 to 12 hours. Only after the concrete is initially hardened can you continue to move on to the next step. At the same time, due to the previous storm, except for the 4th floor of the underground shelter, there was a small amount of sand and stone for emergency response, all other reserves had been lost. At this time, if you don't find a way to replenish it, not only the ground bunkers, but also the expansion of underground shelters will be forced to suspend due to the lack of necessary materials. However, it is not difficult to solve this matter. 2 or 3 kilometers away from the farmyard, there is a dry river channel. You only need to send an excavator and a transport truck to easily dig trucks of sand and stone back. The only cost is the power consumed by the vehicle in normal mechanical wear, and the risk of being slightly away from shelter. 2 or 3 kilometers are no longer close. Especially in the end of the world with unpredictable climate, no one can guarantee that one will be able to come back safely after going out. Retrieve ground photos taken by the reconnaissance drone formation not long ago. Su Wu carefully studied it and found that the river channel did not change much. Since most of the routes there overlapped with the sections passed by the cleaning team sent out before, there were basically no obstacles. The biggest danger is that the last journey of a few hundred meters requires crossing a rugged wilderness and a steep slope, and you may encounter various pits. Chapter 42 The Disappeared Villagers, Residents. I wish the special transport vehicle was still there. Su Wu was in a little trouble. Although the previous storm did not significantly change the direction of the river. But the damage to the terrain is really considerable. With the small toy-like small body panels like mini excavators and mini transport vehicles in the engineering team, it is destined to be a very difficult thing to walk through in that complex environment. If you are not careful, you will be overturned. But no matter how difficult it is, it must be done. The construction progress of the shelter cannot stagnate because of this reason. After being embarrassed for a while, Su Wu quickly thought of a solution. That is to install a detection radar for the micro-excavator. At present, the machinery in the engineering team basically uses cameras to identify the external environment. This method of simply relying on identifying pictures for judgment is too single and it is impossible to find various hidden traps. If you can add a detection radar to it, it can greatly make up for this defect. As long as the traps can be discovered in advance and with the capabilities of the micro-excavator, whether it is filling them on the spot or detours, there are many solutions available. There will basically be no more overturning or being trapped. However, it is not easy to install the detection radar on hand. The price of radar is not cheap, and truly high-performance industrial-grade and military-grade radars are not something Su Wu can afford. Among the batch of supplies purchased from the official shelter, there were only 10 cheapest commercial-grade lidar and sonic radars. Among them, the effective detection range of lidar is 25 meters, and it can only identify unobstructed pits. The accuracy is only a little better than camera recognition. Sound wave radar can further explore hidden pits, or simply identify whether the ground is solid enough to support vehicles through. However, its detection distance is only 3.5 meters, and there are a large number of blind spots. Each detection can only detect a fan-shaped area within a range of 60 degrees directly in front of it. At the same time, They also have various problems such as the working ambient temperature not exceeding 50 degrees, the probe head is precise and fragile, and so on. Suwu spent more than 10 minutes of researching, and with the help of artificial intelligence and database, he came up with a final solution. Both radars are installed in a waterproof and dust-resistant shell, a free rotating base, and a separate cooling system. This solution is not very good, but it can at least make the radar run normally. If the accuracy, reaction speed, and detection distance are not considered, there is no big difference between the terrain radars that are equipped with large trucks and special transport vehicles that have been upgraded with survival points. Already available for practice. More than 2 hours later, the construction robots who successfully completed the first phase of construction mission began to return to the shelter one after another. They clean up dust and dirt on their bodies in the disinfection room on the first floor of the shelter, and then go to the manufacturing center on the second floor of the underground to receive routine maintenance from engineering robots. The last part was split into two. 2 units received rifles and magazines at the manufacturing center, guarding near the lifting platform of the shelter. The other 6 units joined the engineering team and went to the 4th underground floor to participate in the excavation and expansion of the shelter. And at the same time, a mini excavator and a mini transport vehicle left the original construction team and came to the ground one after another. Then he turned on the lights in front of the car and slowly drove towards the land that was swallowed by boundless darkness in the distance. I hope nothing happens. Through the ground monitoring of the shelter, Suwu looked at the small convoy gradually disappeared into the darkness, and inexplicable worries vaguely arose in his heart. That feeling was like this was the last time I saw them. I was in a daze for a while. Suwu began to switch the main control screen to the micro-excavator that was taking the lead away from. The lines of data refreshed on the screen represent normal status, and the road signs of the past that can be seen vaguely under the lights of the headlights, which slightly reduced Suwu's uneasiness. The storm not long ago was not all a disadvantage. At least the ground was almost wiped out because of the global forest fires and the ashes brought by the volcanic eruption. At this time, from the perspective of the environment near the highway, it is at most a remote suburb that has suffered from drought. Instead of being like an alien planet, the whole world is covered with a dark tone, which looks like a silent asterisk 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 that makes people feel depressed and desperate. Due to its size, coupled with the widespread presence of many gravel debris that have not been cleaned up on the road. Micro-excavators and mini-transporters are not moving fast, only less than 10 kilometers per hour. Suwu waited for nearly 15 minutes before seeing them leave the road and turn to the rural trail where there are almost no traces. This is the closest route to the river. In the past, there were 2 or 3 self-built rural houses and a piece of abandoned farmland here. But now, they are completely gone. It should be located right in the center of the storm belt. It was completely destroyed. Suwu controlled the camera on the mini excavator and turned to the location of a self-built house. At this time, there had become a sunken earth pit. Except for a piece of gravel wrapped in the storm, there are no traces left by artificial buildings in the pit. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. He remembered that there was a family of 5 living in that house. The head of the family is a middle-aged man named Miao Yijun and has a very cheerful personality. When Suwu just came here, he entrusted him to help buy some gasoline and sugar on behalf of others. At the same time, he also heard him show off his own vegetable cellar, which was built spacious and sturdy, and was used as a shelter without any problems. However, the words were still in my ears, and his house, along with his strong vegetable cellar, had disappeared in the storm forever. I hope they all moved to the official shelter in advance. Suwu sighed silently. I didn't insist on getting closer to the past and check the truth about the matter. Get off the road. The leading micro-excavator has become slower. Occasionally, when you encounter some rocks and pits that block the road, you have to dig them out, or simply take a detour. After all this, by the time I reached the edge of the river, nearly half an hour had passed. At this time, a warning came from the large trucks and special transport vehicles that arrived near the edge of the city to clear the road. The wind power there began to gradually become stronger. The reconnaissance drone formation located at high altitude alert has been forced to land in the cab of large trucks. The alert task can no longer be performed normally. Is this another storm? Su Wu was subconsciously shocked. But he looked through the official forum and found no similar disaster warnings. Chapter 43 Post-Disaster Reconstruction. Among the local chat channels in Zhonghe City, the most popular topic is still the road cleaning activity on the ground. After hesitating for a moment, Su Wu decided to continue. We are almost at our destination, so we can't just give up just because of a little abnormality. On the river bank, the leading micro-excavator was not affected by Su Wu's anxiety at all. It still maintained a speed of 2 meters per second, slowly following the embankment, looking for a passage to go down. The gusts of wind blowing along the river rolled up strands of fine gravel, slapped on the metal shell of the mini excavator, making a crackling sound. Greetings from the wilderness to this lonely sand digging team. Finally, after walking for hundreds of meters, a that was no longer so steeper appeared in front of the micro-excavator. The artificial intelligence immediately controlled the micro-excavator, turning the radar to detect the road and drawing a map while carefully driving downhill. As the convoy entered the range of the river, the soft gravel gradually replaced the relatively hard earth and stone floor. Without letting them go too deep, Su Wu found a random place on the periphery and began to dig on the spot. This kind of excavation without screening will obviously not get fine sand of too good quality. But it doesn't matter. After transportation and refuge, there is time and labor to carry out deeper processing. In the apocalyptic environment, compared to the risk of disasters that may occur at any time when long-term exposure to the outside world, labor and time costs are not worth mentioning. In the river, due to the limited carrying capacity of the micro-transporter, the entire sand digging process does not last long. In just 5 or 6 minutes, the mini-transporter's bucket was filled with sand and stone. At this time, following the principle of highest efficiency, artificial intelligence automatically starts operating the micro-transporter and returns alone along the original road. The micro-excavator stayed in place and waited for the transporter to come again before continuing to work. This operation made Su Wu feel a little scared. But he hesitated for a moment and still did not interfere. This most efficient course of action should not be stopped without obvious harsh climates and other dangers. Compared to when I came, the return miniature transport vehicles have basically been proven and have been much faster. Stay close to full speed all the way. Soon, the figure of a miniature transport vehicle appeared in the surveillance camera installed on the shelter ground. A truck of sand and stone was successfully put into the warehouse. There should be no problem. Witnessing the miniature transport truck that unloaded the sand and stones disappeared into the night again. Su Wu's hanging heart fell slightly. With the success of the first trip, with the rigor of artificial intelligence, as long as the weather does not change much, he doesn't need to worry about it anymore. Turn your attention back to the shelter. Su Wu thought about it and assigned 2 construction robots from the engineering team on the 4th floor underground, bringing tools, and going to the ground to deal with the cart of sand and stone brought back. The qualified part of this batch of sand and stone screened will be taken into the shelter and become the raw material for the expansion of the 4 underground floors of the shelter. As the construction robot arrives on the ground, it starts working. Su Wu overlooked the entire construction site through a camera arranged at the highest point. This piece of ground that originally belonged to the farmyard. There are no traces of the storm coming. On the flat land, there were piles of materials by metal strips. One was built and was waiting for hardening. There was also a shelter where only drainage canals were dug and the foundation was not built. Exit bunker. Although they are not good looking enough. But their existence itself represents the surface of the shelter, and the chaos caused by the storm is gradually moving towards order. Everything started to flourish. Give some more time. As long as the bunkers are built, there is no need to be afraid of the hurricane coming again. The matters of the shelter were handled. Su Wu began to devote most of his energy to the cleaning team far away from the edge of the city. After nearly 10 hours of cleaning, special transport vehicles and large trucks advanced near to Kala Mall. Taking that shopping mall as the dividing line and continuing to go deeper into the interior has increased by at least several times. Many of the collapsed buildings are blocked throughout the streets. Instead of digging a passage with difficulty, it is better to bypass them directly from the side. In this case, just primary artificial intelligence cannot make the best judgment. Suwu needs to be on the side and make timely corrections. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. But although the difficulty has increased, but because this is already in the urban area, many people from other shelters have also participated in the cleaning work. Overall, the overall advancement speed is not too slow. These collapsed buildings are all good sources of materials. When the cleaning work is over, the last batch of supplies that were placed in the official shelter will be transported back. Maybe you can consider it and come over and pull a few more trucks of construction waste back. The process of cleaning the streets is long and boring. In addition to occasionally correcting the areas where special transport vehicles work, Suwu often observes the surrounding environment in vain. The thousands of collapsed buildings in the urban area and the huge amount of wreckage gathered together made Suwu extremely jealous. In his opinion, these things are almost equivalent to endless building materials. Even if they are a little far from the shelter. But the sufficient quantity and the convenience of loading the car directly are enough to make up for everything. Turn the lens on the special transport vehicle. Between the buildings hidden in the darkness in the distance, you can vaguely see the lights forever. That was the construction workers from other shelters who were operating machinery. Under the high temperature of more than 70 degrees, ordinary people are almost unable to move outside normally. However, construction vehicles that have been specially modified can be feared by this heat. Of course, according to the news Suwu heard from the official forum, limited by limited resources, the modification is more about ensuring that the machine will not be overloaded due to heat, and the operators in the cab are relatively less caring for. Although the temperature in the cab will not be the same as that in the outside world. But it won't be much better either. Every worker staying inside can be said to be enduring torture. I looked over for a while. Suwu gradually gained a rough understanding of the efficiency of those people. Although the excavators, bulldozers, etc. they drive look larger than Suwu's special transport vehicles. But many times, because the operation is not so standard, many actions are repetitive and invalid behaviors. Often, 7 or 8 excavators and bulldozers can be combined with a barely comparable to the efficiency of a special transport vehicle. Chapter 44 Expansion Plan. So that goes on. My contribution value is not sure that I will be ranked in the top few of all the small and medium-sized shelters involved in the cleaning. This was a surprise. The official shelter of Zhonghe City is for those who have contributed the most to this cleanup operation. There will be an additional reward of 20,000 to 20,000 contributions. This number doesn't seem to be much. In fact, based on its purchasing power, 2,000 contributions are enough to buy 7 or 800 kilograms of rice. Even for a refuge, it is not a negligible wealth. Meanwhile, relative to generosity in shelter ranking rewards, it is much more difficult for workers who actually participate in the cleaning work to obtain contribution values. Take Suwu's convoy as an example. From entering the city, you can obtain the contribution value to start calculation. In nearly 4 hours, the total contribution value accumulated is only about 2,000. Based on this data, workers in other shelters risk their lives and endure the scorching heat and high temperatures. The income of working on the ground for an hour is only about 70 per person. In addition, the construction equipment and vehicles are basically provided by the shelter where they are located. During settlement, rent to the shelter is deducted, and the workers actually earn less. It may be approximately equivalent to 1 to 2 days of food share. It's just to exchange life for food. I will make my mind distracted. Suwu continued to direct special transport vehicles to clear the road. Considering that he had no hope of arriving at the official shelter in a short period of time, in the end, he simply settled down and asked the special transport truck to clean up while loading some better quality construction waste onto the large truck following behind. Then when the truck is full, let it carry construction waste in advance and return to the shelter. Anyway, I am idle. Let's take advantage of the resources you can get first. Time is gradually moving towards midnight in the busy cleaning work in Zhonghe City. A new day is coming. In addition to the routine daily basic rewards, Suwu's system log also quietly refreshed a prompt that was completely different from the past. Successfully overcome a destruction disaster, survival point +30. Close black lens bracket. Will there be rewards when encountering disasters? Suwu raised his brow slightly as his eyes fell on the surprising prompt. Several thoughts of eagerness emerged in my mind. However, now is not the time to explore this. He turned his gaze to the end of the system panel, where the number that was originally zeroed was restored to 33. It's just right. I'm worried that there is not enough survival points. Switch the main screen on the console screen to the manufacturing center. A brand new special transport vehicle body appears on the screen. Next to it, there is also a mini excavator and a model of a gravel truck, which is quietly on standby. These are the results created by engineering robots in their spare time after this period of time and no shortage of supplies. According to Suwoo's original plan, he wanted to slowly upgrade them one by one tomorrow until he saved enough survival points. Now, since I accidentally obtained a generous survival point, the plan naturally needs to be advanced. Wait patiently for a few minutes. After the engineering robot completed the final finishing work on the special transport vehicle body, Suwoo stood up and walked quickly to the manufacturing center. After the survival point at a full 20 o'clock was smashed, the three vehicles that could only be regarded as models were temporarily upgraded and evolved in the white light, filling in the final missing part of the core. After the upgrade is completed, without even carefully testing their performance, Suwoo immediately assigned tasks to them through the tablet he carried with him. The special transport vehicle heads to the river to replace the original micro-excavators and micro-transport vehicles, and is responsible for excavating sand and stones. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. The gravel truck and micro-excavator went to the 4th floor underground and joined the engineering team to participate in the construction. In terms of design, the more massive and bulky special transport vehicles have much safety in wilderness and rivers than toy-like micro-vehicles. It is almost impossible for any accidents to occur due to the geography. At the same time, its powerful carrying capacity comparable to large trucks makes its working efficiency directly exceeds that of the combination of micro-excavators and micro-transport vehicles. Higher efficiency means that the time spent in the field is shorter and the overall risk is smaller. In other words, the addition of this special transport vehicle is equivalent to significantly reducing the cost of Suwoo collecting construction materials from the outside world. The gravel truck is a professional engineering vehicle, specially used to crush hard rock formations underground. Before this, there was only one gravel truck in the entire engineering team. At the same time, it is also the core of the entire engineering team. In many cases, its efficiency is almost equal to the efficiency of the entire engineering team digging underground space. This gravel truck is now added, plus the number of construction robots that are already a bit oversaturated, as well as micro-excavators and micro-transport vehicles that are about to return from the river. The construction capacity of the engineering team will be doubled. If things go smoothly enough, with this lineup, you can completely complete the excavation and construction of the 4th underground floor in at most 2 days. As for the micro-excavator, due to its size, it actually no longer occupies the main position in the growing engineering team. The newly added car has more of a certain reserve nature. If you need to temporarily send out to perform tasks in the future, this micro-excavator will be the first choice. Even if there is danger and accident, it will not have much impact on the shelter. Wait until the 4th floor is built. There is enough space to add some large industrial equipment. At that time, you can try to study whether you can produce construction robots. Or to the minimum, mass production of some robot dogs or large toy cars that can handle simple jobs. If the first 3 floors of Suwoo Sanctuary are equivalent to a self-sufficient manor, then the 4th floor is equivalent to the beginning of the advancement of the manor to the industrial town. In Suwoo's plan, he will build a small industrial area there that integrates dismantling, smelting metal and spare parts production lines. Disassemble and melt the waste items previously recycled into the most basic materials on a large scale, and then batch made into standard parts for manufacturing various mechanical equipment. Complete the transformation from handicraft workshops to standard industrial production plants. And at that time, the shelter was truly on the fast lane of development. Chapter 45 Preparing for the Rain. The affairs inside the shelter came to an end. Suwoo cut back to the Zhonghe City urban convoy. Continue to focus on the clearing of the road. It was not until more than 2 hours later that he was really sleepy that he paused this boring job and planned to go to bed and take a break. At this time, Su Wu's sanctuary recorded the contribution value of the official account reached 3,500 points. Crush into the top 10 of all shelter contributions. The next morning, Su Wu woke up in a clear and ethereal song. He didn't rush to get up. Just closed your eyes and listened quietly to the soft voice in the song that seemed to cleanse the soul. After a long time, I got up and washed up reluctantly. Go to the control center through the corridor. Looking at the vast hall, which was mainly silver tones as always, Su Wu, who was still immersed in the afterglow of the singing, suddenly felt a little out of place. It seems that staying in the shelter for too long is almost causing psychological problems. Perhaps, it should be considered building an artificial garden to relax. After all, Su Wu's daily activities are only residential areas and control centers, which are less than 300 square meters. Even if the central air conditioner and air purifier adjustment with enhanced survival points can keep the temperature and air quality in the shelter at the most suitable and closest to nature, it will inevitably lead to a depressing mood. If there is no way to vent this emotion, it will not disappear, but will only accumulate over time. In the end, it will eventually become a huge hidden danger that must be paid attention to. Standing there in a daze for a while, Su Wu shook his head and temporarily suppressed this inexplicable thought. He came to the console and sat down, first checking the logs of the shelter. During this period of rest, no accidents occurred in the shelter. However, with the continuous work of special transport vehicles, the sand and stone piled on the surface of the shelter have almost become a hill, and there is no need to worry about the shortage for a long time. In the urban area of Zhonghe City, the efficiency of cleaning up the convoy has been greatly reduced due to lack of Su Wu's personal command. They dug out a passage of nearly 100 meters in a ruin that was almost 4 or 5 meters high in a building wreckage. It seems that the workload is large enough, but the actual contribution value is pitifully small. So Su Wu ranked in the top 10 in the contribution value before going to bed, and at this time he had already dropped to the top 20. Don't they all rest? After being transferred out of the surveillance camera in the city, looking at the excavators and bulldozers who were still busy in other shelters, Su Wu couldn't help but complain. But this kind of thing is actually understood by just thinking about it a little. Not everyone is as lacking in labor as Su Wu. Whether official or private, most of the shelters are currently overcrowded. For efficiency, they can completely rotate workers to play. Even if casualties occur, it is a good thing for the shelter and can reduce some of the pressure on supply. After thinking about it, Su Wu suspended the task of digging sand and stones from the second special transport vehicle and transferred it to the city. Now there is enough sand and stones, and there is no place to put them any longer after collection. If there is another storm, it may be useless to do it. It would be better to bring it to the city to work. After more than 10 minutes, the newly built special transport vehicle arrived to meet with the cleaning team. 2 professional construction vehicles, under the precise control of artificial intelligence, tirelessly clean up obstacles on the road with extremely high efficiency. Soon, the contribution value of Su Wu's refuge began to grow rapidly again, running towards the top 3 rankings. In the afternoon, when Su Wu had lunch and sat in front of the console again, the contribution value of the shelter has exceeded 10,000 points, second only to the first medium-sized enterprise-level shelter. Irving Sanctuary. Su Wu glanced at the name of the number 1 refuge and felt that it looked familiar. He recalled carefully and remembered that on the local channel, someone once mentioned that the predecessor of the shelter was a factory that made generic drugs, which was famous for squeezing workers and being treated harshly. In addition, it seems that there is a background in gangs and has raised many thugs. Don't do personnel in peacetime. Now, frowning, Su Wu couldn't imagine what kind of life the ordinary people living in Irving's shelter now lived. A slave to modern society. Shaking his head, Su Wu sighed slightly, sweeping these bad associations behind his head. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. In the end of the world, there are too many suffering people. He couldn't sympathize with him at all, and it would be good to be able to live his own life well. But then again, since Irving has taken refuge in all the backgrounds involved in black, I think he should be used to being domineering in daily life. It's certainly not tolerate someone fighting with them for food. You have to be a little cautious about them. After changing his mind, Suwu began to pay attention to the relationship between his own shelter and Irving's shelter. He didn't mind speculating on the other party's reaction with the worst attitude. According to the efficiency shown by the two special transport vehicles at present, it will not take long to surpass the other party in contribution value. The rewards between the first and second places are a total of 10,000 contributions. This is not a wealth that can be easily overlooked. If one is not done well, the other party may come over to cause trouble for him in impulse. With a sense of crisis, Suwu immediately couldn't sit still. He opened the list of weapons for the shelter. I had the last time a large truck was robbed halfway. There are many things in the current armament library that can be called weapons. 2 K2 series agricultural drones with rocket launch slots, 10 folding shooting platforms, 2 automatic rifles, and 4,000 bullets. If fully utilized, these weapons are almost enough to fight a small battle. It's not enough. It's time to add a little more. Suwu was a little unsatisfied. The original intention of these weapons was to target a small team of thugs. We do not seek accuracy, but only seek to destroy them in the shortest time with the most fierce firepower and the most overwhelming advantage. But now, the enemy is replaced by a medium-sized refuge with at least tens of thousands of people and a higher organizational level. It's a bit insecure. In extreme cases, it may be possible to destroy all the ammunition and not completely destroy them. Although there is a real conflict, you can seek official help. But everything is unexpected. If the official delays it or simply ignores his request for help, in the end it will depend on him. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 46 The Possibility of Forced Recruitment. Adhering to the habit of thinking about the worst of everything. Suwu almost didn't hesitate for too long, so he decided to add another batch of new weapons on the spot. And considering that this time you may face a larger number of enemies. Simply adding firearms or rockets is not cost-effective and cannot bring overwhelming advantages. Suwu searched in the database for a long time and finally came up with a brand new solution. That is to make aluminum thermal agent. Aluminum thermal agent is a mixture that can produce high temperatures above 2,500 degrees after combustion, which is sufficient to melt steel in a very short time. The main materials that make it are very common and cheap aluminum powder and rust. But its power is terrible. No matter how tight the protection is, once burned with burning aluminum heater, it will eventually be unable to escape the fate of being burned through. The only disadvantage is that it burns very small. However, it is not difficult to solve this problem. As long as you add a small bomb or fireworks to the aluminum heater, it can expand its lethality to a very considerable range. As for the launch method, Suwu chose to use drones to directly throw them, and to create shells and fire them from howitzers. Both solutions have extremely low costs. Among them, the drone can be replaced by the K2 series agricultural drone part-time. Although howitzers have to be built from scratch, their structure is much simpler than intelligent automation equipment such as micro-excavators, and at most they have certain requirements for materials. The engineering robot itself can be fully created. There is no need to use valuable survival points at all. When the construction of the small bunker is completed, a 120mm howitzer can be arranged on it. Store 20 boxes, 160 aluminum thermal shells of corresponding specifications. As for the aluminum thermal bombs used for drones, 50 can be produced in two specifications, 20 kg and 40 kg. Because aluminum thermal agent raw materials are common enough and cheap enough, Suwu was quite generous when planning his ammunition reserves. Basically, we can make calculations directly to the standard that can achieve saturated strikes lasting more than 10 minutes. Arrived here. The firepower configuration of the shelter is actually extremely abundant. Even enough to be a little oversupply. Not to mention the Irving Refuge is an imaginary enemy, it is just a shelter for a medium-sized enterprise with just over 10,000 people. Even if it is used to fight against a company-level army, there is no big problem. But even so, Suwu still feels that he is not safe enough. His eyes fell on the three-dimensional map of the shelter, the vertical drone lifting passage connecting the shelter and the small bunker that had not yet been built. A thought quietly emerged. There are already ready-made vertical launch silos, so why not have a big launch again? He opened the database for a simple search. A 240mm diameter rocket design drawing jumped out of it. The manufacturing of related military weapons has been included in the work schedule of engineering robots. Check out the time. The concrete on the first floor of the small bunker on the ground should have almost been initially hardened. Suwoo drew out all 8 construction robots, concrete mixer trucks, and a mini excavator from the engineering team on the 4th floor of the underground, and went to the ground to continue building the 2nd floor. Compared with the height of the first floor of the bunker, the height of the 2nd floor is only about 3 meters, and the project volume has also been greatly reduced. With the joint cooperation of 8 construction robots, it is expected to be completed in up to 2 to 3 hours. Then wait for about 8 hours to harden the 3rd floor and continue to build and cap it, and then you can declare the completion of the entire small bunker. Handle matters inside the shelter. Suwoo continued to command the convoy in the urban area to clear the road. Evening. When the large transport vehicle had traveled back and forth more than 5 times, bringing hundreds of tons of construction waste back to Suwoo shelter. The first passage to the nearest official shelter entrance was completely opened. Suwoo was manipulating a construction robot and rushed to the material warehouse of the official shelter as soon as possible, intending to withdraw his materials. The supplies you have stored here are 220 tons of steel and 300 tons of fertilizer. Only. The warehouse administrator was a little hesitant in his words. What's wrong? No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Suwoo raised his eyebrows, and his voice passed through the construction robot's transit, which sounded quite cold and hard. It's nothing, I'll pick up the goods for you now. The administrator seemed to have noticed that he was acting inappropriately and showed an apology expression. He lowered his head and printed out a list of outbound documents on the computer and handed it over to the construction robot controlled by Suwoo. Then hesitated for a moment, but couldn't help but speak. You'd better take everything you've stored before tomorrow morning. I heard from our supervisor that the material gap in shelters is now very large, and we are considering temporarily collecting private materials to make up for it. If you move a little slower, you may only get an IOU in the end. For administrators who are just working at the bottom, they will not talk about the benefits of collecting materials from above. The disadvantages are only on their faces. He must face the representatives of civil shelters who have lost their supplies and be the first to bear their anger. If you don't do it well, you might have blood splattered on the spot. After secretly taking a look at the steel-structured robot in front of him, the administrator felt even more distressed. It is impossible to mess with a shelter that can afford to play with a robot. Building a gun is probably not as easy as playing. If there is a conflict at that time, no matter what the other party's ending will be, he will definitely be the first unlucky guy to be sacrificed. Charge materials. Suwoo was not surprised to hear that he was so keen on cleaning the roads in the urban area, but it was not just to prevent such things. Under high centralization, especially in the early days of the apocalypse, when constraints from peaceful times were getting lower and lower, it was normal to tear up the contract and squeeze the weak. Being able to give an IOU is considered a kind-hearted manager. I understand, thanks for the reminder. I will take away all the remaining supplies by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. After coming back to his senses, Suwoo gave a clear reply without making any embarrassing the staff opposite. That's good, there should be no big problem before 7 o'clock. Our supervisor won't come so early. The administrator breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, it was finally a good thing to push a trouble away. I got the outbound list. With the assistance of several forklifts operated by the workers in the official shelter, 20 tons of fertilizer were loaded into the carriage of the large truck in less than an hour. Watching the large vans in the screen, starting to return to the shelter along the cleaned street, Suwoo fell into deep thought. Begin to seriously consider how to deal with this accident. Chapter 47 Transfer overnight. Calculate the time. At the speed of a large truck, it will be transported back and forth at most 5 times tomorrow at 7 a.m. Compared with more than 500 tons of materials, this transportation capacity is far from enough. And it is necessary to temporarily upgrade large trucks and increase the single-time carrying capacity. Just relying on the dozen or so survival points in your hands at present, it may not necessarily be much better if you smash them down. It's still a drop in the bucket. If the 2 special transport vehicles that cleaned up the convoy were also transferred here, Suwu calculated and silently rejected this idea. The special transport vehicle is slow and has a high load capacity. It can be as long as 5 meters long, so that the materials it can actually transport are far from the upper limit of load capacity. Moreover, the task of clearing the road will be over in 1 day at most. If you draw them halfway through transportation, you will miss the top 20,000 contribution value reward. I can only take some risks. After weighing the pros and cons, Suwu finally made a decision. Since you don't have time to go back to the shelter, you won't be lucky. Anyway, just extract the materials from the official warehouse. After 20 minutes, large trucks driving at high speed arrived at the surface of Suwu Sanctuary. A construction robot jumped out of the cab and opened the door of the truck compartment. Then, the side of the carriage close to the cab began to slowly lift, pouring out all the fertilizers piled up inside the carriage. The rough unloading action caused many woven bags that were outer packaging to be damaged. A large amount of fertilizer was spilled out from it, covering a small area around it like sand. It can be foreseen that if you want to recollapse them later, you will definitely encounter a lot of trouble. Then, 8 construction robots that had already arrived at the ground from the underground shelter began to enter the carriages of large trucks in turn. 2 of the construction robots also carry 2 automatic rifles and 6 magazines filled with bullets. These construction robots will go to the official shelter with the large trucks to assist in loading the supplies, and then unload the goods on the spot not far from the official shelter. At the surface where the average temperature is as high as 70 degrees, most buildings are destroyed. Any place can be called a remote and uninhabited area. It may be a bit risky to throw down supplies there temporarily, but it is still much better than being directly confiscated by the official shelter. Continue to pick up the goods. Suwu lets the large truck drive back to the official shelter. However, before leaving, Suwu thought about it and asked them to bring a K2 series agricultural drone to strengthen their force. This modified drone with a rocket launch nest has extremely powerful destructive power. Although you can't use it in general, you must always plan the worst in everything, and it is more reassuring to bring it with you. The large truck full of construction robots set off on the road to the official shelter. I entered the city safely along the way. And at this time, Suwu found that there seemed to be more vehicles constructing in various parts of the city. From time to time, you can hear the roar of the diesel engine, and occasionally you can even see 1 or 2 cars passing by the passage that Suwu cleared out. Suwu frowned, hesitated for a while, and decided to continue to implement the original plan. Come to the official shelter. A large number of construction robots flocked into the underground hall, attracting many people's attention. Some people looked around curiously, while others whispered to each other, asking where these mechanical creatures representing cutting-edge technology came out. Construction robots did not respond to the curious crowd. They faithfully implemented Suwu's orders, and under the coordinated operation of artificial intelligence, they cooperated with the workers of the official warehouse to load bags of fertilizer into the carriage. Where did this robot come from? It looks like it's really easy to work. A forklift worker was chatting with his colleagues next to him while he was resting. Who knows, I haven't heard of any robot in a shelter. The colleague of the forklift worker is a middle-aged man who is physically and mentally exhausted. He looked at the working robot and couldn't help but feel a little worried in his eyes. But this shouldn't be a good thing. Many people couldn't find jobs, and these robots came to grab our job opportunities. In official shelter, don't look at everyone's forced labor. But there are 2 different things between forced labor and work. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. The former is an obligation, and the labor intensity may not be high, but at most, you can get a little food a day. The latter may be very tired, but there is an extra reward. Although the income is still far inferior to that of peace, it can at least make yourself and your family live a little better. It's okay, I know someone who is loading the car with the robot over there. They are all workers in warehouse number 7 and are specialized in foreign transactions. These robots should belong to a wealthy private shelter outside, just coming here to pick up the goods. Another young man with a hood jumped in time at this time. It is no secret to working in the same shelter, the responsibilities between different departments. As long as you are interested, you can easily find out. The hooded youth envied the most before was the workers in warehouse No. 7. Because they are external departments, their work is the easiest and the small part of the entire shelter is the best. So it's from outside, that's good. The middle-aged man breathed a sigh of relief and withdrew his vigilant look at the robot. As long as you don't take his job, everything is easy to say. After no longer vigilance, he couldn't help but feel curious. Even in the past peace period, the large-scale use of humanoid robots was a thing that only existed in legends. When it basically appears, it will be related to some high-tech large enterprises. What kind of refuge will be behind these robots that appear here? Will the people living there be several times, or even dozens of times better than the official shelter? With the help of more construction robots. This time, it took less than half an hour to reload a truck of goods. 2 construction robots drilled into the cab, started the large truck, and left the official shelter. The remaining 8 construction robots remained, standing quietly at the exit of the official shelter, shutting down and waiting for a call. A few minutes later, large trucks appeared near 2 special transport vehicles that were cleaning the road. Dump all the fertilizers in the car onto a small open space they specially cleaned out. Then a construction robot, holding an automatic rifle, jumped out of the car and silently guarded near the fertilizer. Another construction robot, as the large van continues to return to the official shelter to load. Chapter 48 Irving Refuge. Next, the same process continues to be staged here. Time gradually moves towards the middle of the night. The rich darkness gradually submerged everything. When the 2 special transport vehicles that cleaned up the convoy also turned around the corner and disappeared behind a skyscraper. The plane covered with fertilizers is as quiet as if it has been abandoned by the world. Only a construction robot with a gun is silently accompanying him. And at this moment, a drone quietly flew over high altitude, using it to carry infrared camera lenses to record all this on the ground. Irving Sanctuary, Ground Command Room. Supervisor Sun, the person from Wangshi Village Shelter, poured all the supplies he received from the official to the ground city. Preliminary estimates are at least 200 or 300 tons. An employee who received the image of the drone transmission was reported to his supervisor. Due to the competition in cleaning mission ranking, the entire ground command room is currently concerned about this shelter from Wangshi Village. Therefore, it is easy to recognize the truck that belongs to their shelter. It's them again. Sun Yaoyong came behind the employee and looked at the monitor in front of him. In the photo taken by infrared camera, a large amount of supplies filled with woven bags were piled up randomly on the side of the street, and a certain piece was specially cleaned up in the open space. However, due to the accuracy issue, it is impossible to see clearly what exactly those materials are. They left only one robot guard there. Do we want to grab it? Next to Sun Yaoyong, a deputy supervisor who was his assistant asked. Robot. Sun Yaoyong was moved, but he did not rush to answer. He narrowed his eyes slightly and observed the photo carefully. I noticed that the so-called robot seemed to be holding a gun in his hand. He felt a little awesome and realized that the other party was not easy to mess with. Robots represent high-tech equipment, and firearms represent that the other party does not comply with the federal weapons control regulations so much. The combination of the two means that what they have to face is not a civilian organization that can be bullied at will, but a well-trained and extremely violent gang. First find out what they are transporting from the official shelter. With concern in his heart, Sun Yaoyong's actions became cautious. He ordered the correspondent to contact members stranded in the official shelter to inquire about the news. This task is not difficult. The transfer of hundreds of tons of materials cannot be completely concealed in the environment of shelter with limited space. As long as you are willing to find a transport worker to inquire, you should know a rough idea. Things didn't go unexpected. A few minutes later, Sun Yaoyong received detailed information from the official shelter. In order to avoid being forced to be collected by the official, Wangshi Village Shelter is urgently transporting hundreds of tons of steel and fertilizers stored in the official warehouse. Moreover, the one in Wangshi Village is not responsible for transporting the living people. Instead, there are nearly 10 robots with very agile and smooth movements. Steel and fertilizer. With the information he got, Sun Yaoyong felt a little disappointed. These things alone are not enough to make him take the risk to start a war with the other party. Even if the other party is superimposed, it may rob the first place in the urban cleaning mission, it is still not enough. With the blessing of guns, even if they underestimate their combat effectiveness, they will be enough to pose a considerable threat to Irving's refuge. It is not worth the loss to start a war rashly. Keep your attention first. The chairman asks us to keep a low profile now and not make too much noise. Sun Yaoyong lowered his eyes and drew a conclusion on this matter. As a middle-level manager in the shelter, he vaguely heard some wind. At present, some special research seems to be being conducted in the shelter, which is not suitable for attracting official attention for the time being. If you rashly make things that are not valuable, it will cause trouble to the superiors. He, as the supervisor, is probably going to end his life. Below the ruins of the farmyard, Su Wu, who was sitting in the control center on the second floor of the underground floor of the shelter, did not know that a possible attack would disappear. But he was still in a good mood. The progress of transporting materials was quite smooth. At the current speed, all the remaining supplies can be transported out of the official warehouse in a maximum of 2 or 3 hours. That's when the construction robots that are free of charge can cooperate with the K2 series of agricultural drones to form a full team with heavy firepower. Focus on guarding supplies on the surface, waiting for the large trucks to slowly carry them back. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Time stands on my side. As long as it is not a direct conflict with the official shelter. The further you get to the back, the less accidents will happen. Turn your sight. I looked at the progress of cleaning the fleet. At present, his contribution value has completely surpassed Irving's shelter and steadily ranked first. The reward of 20,000 contribution value is about to be obtained. The cleanup mission is coming to an end. Stay all night first. Stop turning the car at the last minute. After thinking about it, Su Wu decided to persevere. Besides, there are still 10 construction robots outside now. If there is no care of him, something unexpected happens. That loss is simply unacceptable. But I said I had to work all night. But strictly speaking, there are not many things that really need Su Wu to deal with in person. Whether it is planning the route or warning of natural disasters and man-made disasters, it will not take up too much time and energy for Su Wu. Most of the time, Su Wu is still in a state of doing nothing. In this case, in order to dispel sleepiness, Su Wu chose to spend time on the official chat channel and chat with others nonsense, and then see if there are any transactions to do. So boring. I just cleared my home, and now I have nothing to do. The Reload Knight complains on the channel. Several buildings in this brother's house collapsed in the storm, and even the exit was blocked. But now I still have the interest to play games. I have to say that my mentality is strong enough. Let's change another game. What a simple thing. Mr. Zhuang happened to be online, and he said a little to the heavy-mounted knight. As a rich second generation who was once unrestrained, now staying in his own shelter all day long, Mr. Zhuang feels that life is quite tormenting. What's even more terrifying is that it's not even easy for him to eat some fresh vegetables and fruits now. There is basically nothing for every day's recipes except various frozen foods and canned foods. It made him crazy. That won't work. There are limited games. If you don't control yourself, you won't be able to live your life in the future. The words, reinstalled night, reveal confusion. This is also the norm in the Doomsday. Even for entertainment, you need to be careful and careful. After all, there will be no one else to make new games. Chapter 49 The first batch of vegetable transactions. You guys are really idle. Wang Jianguo was not sleeping at this time. As the former director of a steel factory who manages a shelter of more than 2,000 people, he has to worry about countless things every day. Over the past few days, especially seeing the materials in the warehouse drop little by little, I have already felt exhausted. And he is now online, not just for chatting. Who has fresh vegetables there? Can you sell me some? I want to use it to boost morale in the shelter. Not every refuge has the ability to grow vegetables by yourself. Not to mention the power required to maintain plant growth lamps in the underground world is a considerable burden for ordinary shelters. The most basic planting space alone may not necessarily have many shelters to take out. For underground shelters where every inch of land is valuable, the same resources are better used to cultivate more efficient foods, such as voles, earthworms, mushrooms, etc. And even there are quite a few refuges that cannot even breed field mice and earthworms. They rely solely on the food and canned food they had hoarded before the end of the world, hoping that the surface environment will return to normal in the near future. Vegetables are not easy to deal with. I have a few kilograms of fresh cabbage here. Lao Wang, would you like? Just use a 50A battery to replace it. A shelter director who was somewhat familiar with Wang Jianguo said to Wang Jianguo half-jokingly. Why don't you grab a 50A battery? Wang Jianguo was so angry that he almost jumped. Even if fresh vegetables are rare in the current environment, it is impossible to sell at such a high price. A large capacity battery is something that can save lives at critical moments. No matter how stupid a person is, he cannot give it to others just for a few bites. I also have some lettuce for sale. It's okay to exchange 1 pound of lettuce for 10 pounds of cement, or other things. Su Wu, who was peeking at the screen, said in a timely manner. Real. Brother Su, how many are there in you? When I built the shelter here, there was a lot of cement left. Su Wu's words made Wang Jianguo's eyes lit up. Anything that can build a shelter must be more or less remaining cement. Unlike the official needs to open up deep shelters, these ordinary shelters usually do not have the ability to continue large-scale engineering construction in the apocalypse. Many people don't mind taking out a portion of the cement that cannot be used for the time being in exchange for precious fresh vegetables. There are about 500 or 600 kilograms, and you can produce about 70 kilograms every day from now on. Su Wu estimated it slightly and reported a number. The lettuce with the shortest growth cycle in his hydroponic farm has been ripe for some time. Many lettuce leaves grow quite fat. According to the technique of picking only the outermost leaves and keeping the heart of the vegetable, you can continuously produce about 70 kilograms of fresh vegetable leaves every day. So much. Then I'll exchange 100 kilograms first. By the way, do you want steel? The 500 or 600 kilograms of lettuce made Wang Jianguo very moved. But this is a luxury in the end of the world. It is okay to eat it occasionally, but it would be too costly to eat it as a meal. After suppressing the impulse, Wang Jianguo rationally calculated his own cement inventory and carefully gave a transaction amount. Steel is also charged, but the price is not that high. 1 pound of lettuce needs to be replaced with 10 pounds of steel. Compared with cement with a large gap, Su Wu's demand for steel is not so urgent. Of course, this is also related to the ruins of Zhonghe City after a storm. When the city's buildings were intact before, it was not easy to start with clear property rights. Now most buildings have collapsed into ruins, home appliances, air conditioners, etc. are scattered all over the floor, and a large number of family cars have been crushed into discus. Many of them can be said to have become ownerless things. In this case, Su Wu only needs to return to his old business and act as a junk picker, and he will no longer lack metal income for a long time in the future. That's the case, then I'll replace it with cement. I remember you have a truck that can drive automatically. Please help me deliver the goods. The shipping fee is easy to say. There were no specially modified vehicles in Wang Jianguo's shelter. With the current high temperature of more than 70 degrees on the surface, it is very risky to send someone out. Therefore, he would rather pay an extra shipping fee than pick up the goods himself. It's okay, the shipping fee is calculated at the price of 10 kilograms of lettuce. Su Wu had no objection. Anyway, one party must be responsible for transportation. If he takes it, he can make more money. And just when Su Wu and Wang Jianguo were discussing. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. The lettuce production, relatively low selling price, and paid delivery services, attracted the attention of many night owls. The rich second-generation young master Zhuang couldn't help but jump out. I also want 50 kilograms of lettuce and pay with cement. You can cooperate for a long time in the future and buy a batch every half-month. Only when you lose it can you know how to cherish it. Mr. Zhuang's current desire for fresh vegetables is no less than the delicacies of the past. I ordered 20 kilograms, can I pay with liquor? Another less familiar director of a private shelter chose to exchange it with liquor, which is nearly one of the common currencies. His shelter is not without cement, but because there is not much left, he does not want to trade it in order to prevent it from being used in the future. In the end of the world, Many things seem inconspicuous, but when they are needed, if they are not, they may bring unacceptable huge losses. Therefore, basically all private shelter owners must learn to be a qualified stockpiling rats if they want to maintain the shelter for a long time. All right. If you are interested, you can leave your address and transaction number private chat. I will start delivering goods after the roads in the city are completely cleaned up. Su Wu refused everyone. For him, selling vegetables was almost like a deal without money. As long as it can be used for resources, no matter how much it is, it will be profitable. It took only more than half an hour to go. Su Wu has received consultation and transaction applications from 7 or 8 shelters. Not only did the inventory of 500 or 600 kilograms be cleared, but the output for the next week was also booked. During this transaction, through casual chat, Su Wu gradually grasped the status quo of many private shelters. I have a clearer overall understanding of this world that has just entered the end of the world. At present, the surface environment is indeed very harsh, and the living conditions of underground shelters are far less comfortable than before the end of the world. But when it comes to survival pressure, for most people, there is actually not much. The rich materials and production technology inherited from the industrial era will not have too much food crisis for almost everyone in the next 1 to 2 years. Maybe you can't eat enough, or maybe you can't eat well. But in the most extreme case, even if you have a few bottles of vitamin tablets in your hand and more than a dozen bags of vacuum-packed rice, it is enough to survive for a long time without lacking nutrition. Of course, there is no problem with material shortage, which does not mean that there is no problem with distribution. If a manager who has mastered most of the resources of the shelter is greedy and stingy enough, it is not impossible for people to starve to death in his shelter. Chapter 50 The New Internet. End of communication with other shelters. Su Wu made a sales form based on the order. From this, plan a delivery route according to the distance. Thanks to the fairly reasonable and low shipping charges he offered, all the shelters sent for transaction applications were eventually handed over to Su Wu for delivery. In this way, Su Wu made an additional profit of almost no less than the daily lettuce production of hydroponic farms. But the happier you are when you receive an order, and the more trouble you are when you are preparing to deliver it now. Su Wu found that some shelters were located quite remote, and some past sections were not even in the official shelter cleanup plan. This means that if Su Wu wants to go there, he must bring another special transport vehicle and clear the roadblocks while walking to open the road. If it weren't for considering picking up garbage on the road, it would be a revenue for Su Wu. The shipping fee for this delivery alone may even lose money. After all, even if the electricity bill is not expensive, large trucks may encounter natural disasters at any time when they are outside, which is itself a cost. I would have a drone specifically for cargo delivery. Thinking of the professional express drones I saw in the news, Su Wu couldn't help but feel a little envious and yearning. The K2 series agricultural drone he has is pretty good. However, the flight speed of up to 3 meters per second has greatly increased the risk of long-distance transportation and is not suitable for conventional transactions at all. In addition to the K2 series agricultural drones, among the drones traded from the official shelter, the largest load can only transport items weighing 5 kilograms. It rarely comes in handy. Take it slow and make do with a big truck first. When there is plenty of survival points in the future, we will consider upgrading or researching the creation of several transportation drones. The current conditions are limited, so Su Wu can't do anything. But soon, it may be possible. According to Su Wu's original plan, his next survival point will first be invested in the manufacturing center on the second floor of the underground. Add a CNC machine tool and a 3D printer to it. These two devices, one can be used to quickly manufacture conventional parts and the other can be used to print fine parts and special molds. Joining together can basically be used to replace most of the work in the hands of engineering robots. Make its manufacturing speed 3 to 5 times overall. And at the same time, because the manufacturing cycle of engineering robots alone was too long, it was considered an unmanufacturing core part of the motor and can also be printed out by a 3D printer from now on. Motors are one of the most important components of construction robots, micro-excavators, transport vehicles, etc. that rely on electric power to drive mechanical equipment. The realization of self-producing motors means that the cost of manufacturing them will further decrease. Suwu can use the same number of survival points to create more robots and vehicles. The comprehensive strength of the shelter will make a huge leap. At that time, if you want to get a few express-grade drones, it will definitely not be as difficult as it is now. Look at the time. It was already 3 o'clock in the morning. Even in the chat channel, few people are still active. Suwu, who was idle, couldn't help feeling a little lonely for a moment. After all, if you are qualified to connect to the official network, there are only a limited number of people entering the chat channel, and you can't even get lively if you want it. It's better to have the same network as before. At any time, you can find a group of people who can chat. There are also online games, watch live broadcasts and dances. Suwu sighed slightly. Although he had not left for a long time, he already missed the prosperous internet very much. And at this moment, his gaze accidentally crossed the screen in front of the console and fell on the surveillance wall behind. During the monitoring, the quiet winding road and the undulating hills made him feel slightly moved. To put it bluntly, the so-called network is composed of servers and signal towers. The server can be replaced by an upgraded super notebook, and the signal tower can also be used to modify the communication base stations erected in the wild. With the assistance of artificial intelligence, there will be basically no problems with software. Adding up all the basic conditions, building a server by yourself, creating a few commonly used software and games, copying an internet, and connecting people in nearby shelters to the internet, it seems that it is not impossible. Maybe you can give it a try. Suwu murmured to himself. Once the idea of building a self-built network arises, it can no longer be suppressed. But it's too late now, and the risk of going out for exploration is huge. Suwu is not good at making big fuss, so he can only do some preliminary preparations first. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. He first created a new LAN inside the shelter and created a simple search web page. As long as a new link enters the device on this LAN, a search web page will automatically pop up. Then he posted commonly used social software on the search web page, including communications, videos, Weibo, forums, etc. There are also several internet-enabled games with source codes disclosed. With the help of artificial intelligence, all of these things were deployed in less than 3 minutes. It's terrible to be efficient. WeChat, Weibo, P-Site. Suwu used his mobile phone to download all the software on the new network. The familiar icons made his eyes a little dazed for a moment. Click on WeChat and the communication directory above is blank. Then the same is true for Weibo and P-Sites. The layout of each sector is almost exactly the same as before the end of the world, but there is no content in it. Even if it looks similar. These software are ultimately imitations written by artificial intelligence. They also lack the most important link, which is the person who uses them. I thought about it a little. Suwu casually dragged out a song sung by Chen Xin, allowing artificial intelligence to automatically generate videos based on the songs and then publish them on these social software. Be their first user. It looks much more comfortable now. 5 o'clock in the morning. Large trucks pulled the last batch of steel raw materials from the official shelter warehouse. With it, there were 8 construction robots who had been busy all night in the official shelter. This time, a faint ray of skylight penetrated the gray clouds. It brings greetings to the dark urban area on the surface. On the street, the number of construction vehicles has decreased significantly compared to yesterday. As the cleaning mission gradually comes to an end, the rankings of each shelter have basically been finalized. Most refuges have no reason to work at high intensity and have begun to consciously reduce the scale of expatriates. To prevent abnormal losses from occurring in construction vehicles that have undergone special modifications and can move normally against high temperatures. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 51 Contribution Value Exchange. There is no pressure on time. Suwu's mental state became much more relaxed, visible to the naked eye. He sat in front of the console, moving his mouse casually. As if you are manipulating a game, you will assign construction robots. The construction robots guarding the materials in the surface urban area were eventually identified as 4 units by Suwu. And in order to make up for the lack of guards, more than just a K2 series agricultural drone was left behind. When the next time a large truck comes to pick up the goods, 4 folding shooting platforms will be brought to the surrounding area. As for the remaining 6 construction robots, 4 of them will return to the shelter directly with the car to participate in the construction of the last 3rd floor of the small bunker and the capping. The other 2 are stationed in the truck cab, responsible for the safety of large trucks during transportation. If all goes well, these hundreds of tons of steel and fertilizers will be transported back to Suwoo's shelter within the next 24 hours. And on the shelter, with the completion of the small bunker, the materials piled up on the surface of the ground will also have a place to store, so there is no need to fear the storm. Then there are 4 floors underground in the shelter. The excavation will be completed soon. Wait until tomorrow, maybe the level of shelter can be promoted to another level. Suwoo had some expectations in his eyes. Even during the busiest period, he left at least 2 number of construction robots for underground excavation for engineering teams. And such persistence has brought great rewards now. I went back to the bedroom and took a short sleep. Afternoon. The urban cleanup work has come to an end. Suwoo's refuge has a total contribution value of 27,000. Which steadily ranks at the forefront of all refuges, and has received a top prize of an additional 20,000 contribution value. According to official regulations, the procedures for receiving and redeeming contribution values are a little complicated. You need to arrive at the number 1 refuge in the core of Zhonghe City, that is, the municipal shelter, on-site processing. However, compared to what you are about to get, this trouble is nothing. After manipulating a construction robot to ride in a large van, he arrived at the municipal shelter. Suwoo got a special exchangeable list. The reward for ranking first in cleaning tasks is not only an open contribution value of 20,000, but also an invisible right, which is to give priority to selecting from the official list of special goods. Considering the special cargo list, many items are extremely limited in quantity. The actual value of this right to choose is actually far above the simple contribution value reward. Not picked on the list for too long. Suwoo quickly locked in some items he needed, and those things that had never appeared in the shopping mall that was officially provided last time. There are a total of a number of rare chemical products and special alloys on the market, an industrial-grade radar, a express-grade drone, and 20 automotive-grade smart chips. These things use Suwoo's total contribution value of 47,000 yuan. There is nothing to say about chemical products, they are used as additives and catalysts to make rockets fly more smoothly. Special alloys are the core parts used to manufacture some mechanical equipment. Industrial-grade radar and express-grade drones are mainly used as references to facilitate reverse research and imitation. Most of the items that Suwoo has upgraded with his survival points have extremely high technological content. Even if I want to disassemble and study, I have no way to start for the time being. The devices purchased from the official website are much simpler to copy with the assistance of artificial intelligence. And after making it, it can also come in handy. As for automotive-grade smart chips, just like its name, it will be used by Suwoo to make various vehicles. If ranked by manufacturing difficulty. To make an electric-powered vehicle, the most difficult one is undoubtedly the nano-scale chip, followed by batteries and motors. The battery and motor are okay. After establishing the corresponding 3D printers and materials laboratories, Suwoo has great hope of making them independently. Nano-scale chips are something that 3D printers can do nothing. In the short term, there is no need to rely on self-producing. If nothing unexpected happens, chips will be a big player that consumes survival points for a long time in the future, and it is also the main product that Suwoo needs to purchase from the outside for a long time. I'm sure you want these things. The official shelter is responsible for the redemption of contribution value, and is a young man with a very bookish atmosphere. He looked at the construction robot controlled by Suwoo for several glances, and couldn't help confirming it to him again. That's all. Are there any problems? No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Suwoo asked back. Of course it's okay. But I can't tell that your shelter is very good, and these things are not available to ordinary people. The young man looked very knowledgeable. In general refuges, they must be given priority in redemption of medicines and high-calorie and storage-resistant foods. No matter how bad it is, it will be some basic daily necessities. As for things like Suwoo exchanged, Except for express-grade drones, other things do not have certain technical strength and industrial production capabilities, and they are not as useful as a piece of wood. At least, wood can be used to cook with fire. After receiving the contribution value and redeemed. Next, the main task of large trucks is to transport steel and fertilizers stranded in the urban area. After 2 special transport vehicles also joined the transportation ranks. The remaining transport task took only about 3 hours before it was announced to be completed. At the same time, the construction robots located in Suwu shelter have successively transferred all the materials piled on the surface of the open air into the interior of the small bunker that has not yet been completely solidified. Only in place, a pile of construction waste pulled from the city was left behind. These construction wastes are too huge and have low value, and are not necessary to be stored specifically. Even if all of them are lost in accidents, it is just a matter of asking large trucks to travel to the city several more times and transporting some back. I've finally finished the work. Looking at the large truck on the screen, transporting the last truck of steel back. Suwu completely wiped out the last bit of pressure in his heart. I took a look at the time and found it was still early. Suwu's mind became active again. He pulled out an engineering robot and 2 construction robots and let them ride in 2 special transport vehicles towards a hilly area 3 or 4 kilometers away from the shelter. During the period of transferring materials, Suwu did not do anything in front of the console. He took advantage of the gap when the air wind power was weakened and controlled the reconnaissance drone formation to patrol round by circle around the shelter. Finally, a signal tower blown down by the wind was found in the depths of the hilly areas. Chapter 52 Exit Bunker. This time, the robot and transport vehicles were sent out to drag the signal tower back. However, the fleet's itinerary is destined not to go too smoothly. As the distance from the signal tower is closer, the large number of stones built together, and the steep hills standing vertically like swords cut by the storm, caused great trouble to the convoy. Many times, 2 special transport vehicles have to unfold the operating platform, use electric picks and buckets on site, and dug through stones and hills to continue moving forward. This way, a short straight line distance of 3 or 4 kilometers was only a short distance of 3 or 4 kilometers, and it took almost 5 hours to complete it. By the time we arrived near the signal tower, it was completely dark. 2 special transport vehicles turned on their headlights, and the blazing lights interlaced at the top of the collapsed signal tower in the center, revealing their illumination. And further away, under the afterglow of the light, it appears deeper in the darkness. The numerous strange hills exuded a quiet and ominous aura like ghosts. It makes people shudder. Suwu looked at the horrifying scene, and although he was not present through the screen, he still felt his hair standing up. He took a light breath and adjusted the angle of the transport vehicle's onboard camera, and stopped looking away. Concentratedly landing your eyes on the signal tower. After seeing this, I found that there were obvious signs of distortion on the chassis shell on the top of the tower. It was as if there was a pair of invisible and powerful giant hands that once twisted it like a twist. It's so badly damaged. I don't know if it can be repaired. Suwu was not sure. But when you come, you can't give up halfway. It's a mule or a horse, so you have to pull it back and try it first. Start. Suwu gave the order. The special transport vehicles and robots on standby immediately stepped forward and dug out the entire signal tower that was still stuck in the ground. Then it was carried onto 2 special transport vehicles one by one. The goal was achieved. The special transport vehicle begins to start its return journey. Since the signal tower occupied the 2 special transport vehicles, buckets, the robots had no way to take the transport vehicles anymore and could only follow them on foot. But this has no effect. After carrying a signal tower up to 15 meters, the 2 special transport vehicles could only maintain a speed of less than 1 meter per second in the rugged path just opened. It just reached a balance with the speed of the robots. Suwu estimated it at this speed. It took about 40 or 50 minutes before the convoy could return to the shelter. This time is not short, and Suwu doesn't plan to wait. After confirming the situation of the fleet in the end, there was no abnormality. He temporarily moved his eyes away from the convoy. It still takes courage to walk in the hilly area with strange rocks late at night. If it is not necessary, Suwu does not want to experience this uncomfortable atmosphere. On the console, switch back to the shelter control interface. While there is still time, Suwoo called out the three-dimensional map of the shelter and began to fine-tune the engineering team of the shelter. Now the excavation project on the fourth floor of the underground shelter has reached the end of the stage. No more need to concentrate so much labor. Suwoo transferred half of the construction robots and half of the other engineering teams to the ground. Start building bunkers for the exit of the shelter. Since the steel raw materials are temporarily sufficient, Suwoo invested 3 times the originally planned steel bars and iron nets in the construction of the bunker in this luxury. In addition, the thickness of the wall also starts directly 1 meter based on the standards of the shelter exterior wall. Fill in the same middle with construction waste, brush cement on both sides, and finally build it by solidifying the survival point. Once such a high-strength wall is built, it will not only be enough to withstand the attacks of heavy artillery and missiles, but also to support a hill up to 100 meters with it as the core. Suwoo could have predicted that the soil and rocks excavated from the ground would gradually cover them. Its safety level can even catch up with those refuges built in the mountains. There is no shortage of material feel. That's great. Enjoying the pleasant experience brought by a small squandering of resources, Suwoo narrowed his eyes slightly, revealing his inner happiness without reservation. The safer the shelter, the more stable his life can be. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Nothing can be more satisfying than this. After launching the last surface construction project in the plan, Suwoo continued to open the LAN he created to make the final improvements for this ultra-small internet that is about to be opened. Some technologies and materials suitable for underground production and breeding can be put on. There are also common first aid knowledge, ordinary version of encyclopedia information. Movies, novels, animations, etc. Suwoo is adding content on the internet bit by bit. Relying on the public information downloaded from the entire network before the end of the world. As long as he is willing, at this time, he can even copy most of the content that has appeared on the internet except for videos and some pictures. It is just for various reasons that Suwoo needs to identify and restrict the content released. After all, the public information that artificial intelligence can find is completely different from the public information that ordinary people can access. Without control, it may cause some pretty bad effects. More than half an hour. As Suwoo carefully sorted out the information, he passed it quickly. When Suwoo raised his head again, he suddenly discovered that the convoy had towed the signal tower to the door of the shelter. It doesn't seem to be taken into the shelter. Twist it to the lifting platform at most. Suwoo evaluated the length of the signal tower and found that it could be installed in the entire inlet and outlet passage, and immediately breathed a little relieved. To upgrade items with survival points, you must be within 1 centimeter of range. If he could not bring it into the passage and could only face the high temperature on the ground without isolation, it would be a bit embarrassing for him. And this time it was also a reminder for Suwoo. In the future, you will definitely encounter situations where you have to go out to upgrade items in person, and you must make plans for this. Fair repair first. There was no rush to upgrade. Suwoo first asked the engineering robot to inspect it on the ground. The design drawings of the signal tower are also part of the content that can be viewed publicly on the internet. Although there may be slight differences from reality, as long as it is not the level of root, artificial intelligence can manipulate engineering robots and repair them to a certain extent. As for the specific level of repair, it mainly depends on the length of the repair time, as well as the damage to core components such as chips. Chapter 53 Communication Signal Tower. The extremely high temperature laser condensed slowly cuts the twisted metal shell in the top chassis. Expose the wires and circuit boards that have been shaken inside. Suwoo only took a look and felt a little dizzy. I don't know whether their situation is good or bad. But none of this matters. Wait patiently for half a second. Lines of maintenance reports began to appear on the screen. Suwoo moved his eyes and glanced. I immediately knew it. The situation is not serious. Just add a small amount of raw materials and the engineering robot can completely repair it. Without hesitation, Suwoo immediately asked the engineering robot to start repairing. Also use survival points to upgrade items. The 2 states are damaged and intact, which will bring different upgrade routes. The former is equivalent to repairing on the original basis, and strengthening is just by the way. The latter is specially upgraded and given the items as high as possible technological content. Therefore, whenever possible, the best choice is to repair the items first and then upgrade them. 2 hours passed in a flash. With the combined efforts of several construction robots and transport vehicles, the repaired signal tower was dragged into the exit passage of the shelter. Subsequently, all external actions in the shelter were suspended. The outermost gate of the exit passage began to slowly close, completely isolating the outside high temperature. Then at the end of the passage, the explosion-proof door near the lifting platform will automatically open. The cold air from the central air conditioner of the shelter slowly came in. Gradually dissipate the residual heat in the channel. Suwu left the control center and came to the lifting platform. He looked at the communication tower that almost filled the front and back of the exit passage and waited for a moment. Finally, there was action. Be willful. Upgrading the signal tower requires consuming survival points, and in the original plan, the survival points should be given priority to the control center for manufacturing CNC machine tools and 3D printers. Suwu's operation this time will undoubtedly delay the original plan. But he is willing to do so. Reach your hand and hold the top of the signal tower. The tingling heat transmitted from the skin of the palm made Suwu subconsciously shrink his hand. Open black lens bracket communication signal tower close black lens bracket. Evaluation. This is a communication base station with complete signal transmission and reception functions. Close black lens bracket. Superizable sub-options. Expand capacity, expand range, and increase penetration. Close black lens bracket. No too much introduction. For signal towers, only 3 simple and clear upgrade options pop up on the system panel. Expand the number of people that can be used at the same time, expand the signal transmission and reception range, and increase the signal penetration ability. Each option is very useful. However, the limited survival points determine that at most one can only be selected. Suwu thought carefully and chose to upgrade and increase penetration. If the capacity is not enough, the network will be a little stuck at most. The range is smaller, but the number of shelters that the signal can cover is smaller. There is no essential difference. But penetration is different. This is an almost black technology-like existence. It is able to ignore obstacles and penetrate soil and rock formations easily. Transfer the signal directly to the inside of the shelter located deep underground. In this way, even if the owner of the shelter is unwilling to cooperate with the activation of network permissions, members living within the shelter can still receive Suwu's network signals. However, penetrating the attribute can only solve the problem of signal transmission in the past. If the shelter itself is installed in the communication device on the surface, the tower will still not be able to receive information feedback from the shelter members even if the penetration attribute is loaded. This is equivalent to changing from an internet that can communicate to a TV that can only watch one channel. But this actually has little impact. As long as the unilateral information monopoly is broken and the refugee authority agrees to open the internet, it will be much easier. At most, it is just to ask the shelter members who use the network to pay some equipment rental fees and give benefits to the owner of the shelter. The upgrade option was determined, and the 10 survival points disappeared instantly. A gust of white light spread on the signal tower, quietly smoothing it out because it was violently torn, making it feel new as before. Then the top of the tower is integrated into a closed body that is approximately spherical. It looks quite simple. Suwu reached out and touched the sphere, and the cool texture feedback from his fingertips showed that it was a metal with an unusually smooth surface. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Maybe it's iron, or maybe it's some kind of special alloy. Go and try it. Suwu's eyes showed expectation and couldn't wait to test the functions of this brand new signal tower. He issued several relevant commands through the tablet he carried with him, and then turned back to the control room. Behind him, the explosion-proof door of the lifting platform began to slowly close. The signal tower and several robots standing near the signal tower were isolated from the shelter. After more than 10 minutes. Brand new 15-meter high signal tower. It was erected on the top floor of a small bunker on the surface. Wireless charging starts matching. Closing square bracket. Match successfully. Closing square bracket. The communication tower has been incorporated into the conventional power supply sequence. Closing square bracket. The communication tower starts to start. Closing square bracket. Successfully started. Closing square bracket. The wireless network has been rolled out. Closing square bracket. The second floor of the refuge underground. Control center. Suwoo unlocked the screen of the mobile phone in his hand and searched for a full-scale network icon on it. He clicked on the link. In an instant, a simple search page popped up on the phone screen. That is a prompt that will pop up only when you connect to the network for the first time. It's successful. Suwoo knew that from this moment on, the communication signal tower had completely taken over the original LAN. And expand its coverage from the inside of the shelter to everything within a surrounding radius of 15 kilometers. Within this range, all people with wireless communication equipment can connect to or receive their network signals. The budding of a new internet was born here at this moment. Suwoo's sanctuary is 13 kilometers away. A private shelter also located in the suburbs. A young man who had just charged his mobile phone with a hand-cranked generator was bored and flipped through the various settings on his phone. After entering the underground shelter for so many days, he had already watched all kinds of novels, movies and videos stored in his mobile phone. Until now, he doesn't know what he wants to do with his cell phone. If I had known it, I would be more diligent and download a few standalone games that could be played in real-off network. Wang Hao was very regretful. He hadn't played games before, but who knew that those games that were clearly marked as standalone were never able to get in after the internet was cut off. Isn't this a cheating person? Chapter 54 Urban Mining Repository. But regret is useless. The network on the surface has long been destroyed by various disasters. If you think about it pessimistically, perhaps Wang Hao will never be able to access the network with rich resources in his lifetime. And at this moment, Wang Hao's eyes moved and he noticed that there seemed to be an unfamiliar network signal on his phone. He blinked, subconsciously thinking that he had an illusion. But the next moment, his fingers had already lit up before he could react. Hey, it's really possible to connect. Wang Hao's heart suddenly pounded, realizing that he might have discovered something amazing. What happened to Wang Hao is not isolated. In more places, different shelters, people with different identities have discovered this one after another, and even deep underground, they can easily have a brand new network with full signals. Most people. Because the conditions are limited, you cannot truly enter the internet and interact with others. You can only passively watch the only video sent by the internet. But just this has made them so excited that they can't help themselves. That was the first time they had been exposed to information from the outside world in so many days after moving into a shelter and hiding into the dark underground. They are not alone. This night, countless people couldn't sleep all night, and repeatedly played the video from the outside world. They looked at the endless golden wheat fields in the video, listening to the soft and quiet singing that came from the video. The mood that has been in a state of depression for a long time seems to be gradually healing. It was also at this time that they remembered the singer's name for the first time and could never forget it again. And except for ordinary people. As a senior sanctuary, or a tycoon who owns a family shelter. Because they can connect to the official satellite network themselves, they can easily switch to Suwoo's new internet. For them, in this mysterious unknown network, the resources are incredibly rich. Almost all kinds of commonly used software and all kinds of knowledge that are not available can be found. If there weren't too few people who could communicate, they would even think that this was the internet that used to be, and they had recovered. No matter who built it, it's better to have this network than not. After careful contact with several online personnel on the internet, the elites in these shelters have different thoughts, but they generally have this consensus. The second hour after the communication tower was officially operated. As some shelters opened up the permissions for transit within the country, the entire new internet gradually became popular. Many people began to share their lives and experiences in the shelter on social software they were once familiar with. Some people can't wait to start downloading all the information they can search. I was afraid that this network that emerged from somewhere would suddenly close again. There are also a few idle people trying to install games available on the internet. I started to play with it without thinking. They don't care that because the number of people online in the game is too small, they can only fight against human machine for the time being. Because being able to play games itself is enough to satisfy them. Wangxi Village, the ruins of the farmyard. Control center on the second floor of the shelter. Su Wu focused on the network that gradually gained a hint of vitality, peeking at the active people online, talking about his life in a shelter, and talking about Chen Shen's songs, and couldn't help but feel a special sense of satisfaction and accomplishment in his heart. All of this in front of you. It was all facilitated by him. He successfully planted a sapling called Prosperity in the desert. After a long time, Su Wu looked at the time and it was already very late. He quit the internet reluctantly and began to give a routine summary of his daily work. In the last few hours of this evening, the robots and engineering team successfully built the bunker at the exit of the shelter. It has been returned to the interior of the shelter. The fourth floor underground of the shelter has almost been completed. Some engineering team's machinery and equipment have begun to dig vertical channels to the fifth floor. If everything goes well, wait until Su Wu gets up tomorrow morning. The final solidification work of the fourth floor can be carried out, and the fourth floor of the shelter can be officially completed. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. It seems that the special transport vehicles will not play a big role for the time being. You can start going out and earn some extra money. The space of 600 square meters on the floor is not big or small. However, after installing an engineering team and joining 2 special transport vehicles of large size, it seems somewhat crowded. In addition, there is not much work left to do. After considering it, Su Wu simply asked 2 special transport vehicles to withdraw from the construction sequence and go to Zhonghe City to pick up garbage. He had long been extremely envious of the various scrap metals in the city that were smashed by storms and collapsed buildings. I couldn't spare any effort before. Now that I have the chance, I naturally cannot let it go. Well, there are also big trucks coming. Even if you can't pick up so much scrap metal for a while, you can just decorate more construction waste. Anyway, I'll use it sooner or later. While thinking about it, Su Wu was planning the route and setting priority order for this fleet that temporarily formed a team to pick up garbage in the city. Home appliance debris such as air conditioning and external units are undoubtedly the most valuable category under the same volume. Next are cars, street lights, billboards, and other things that contain a lot of metal. Construction waste also contains steel bars. But after all, there are a large number of cement blocks wrapped around the outside, which, together, belongs to the lowest value category. Only when there is nothing to pick up can you load them by the way. Avoid idle capacity of large trucks. Stay along the cleared road first. Pick up the metal garbage you can pick up along the way first. Then run it for a second time and dig out the shallower part. Then search the collapsed factories, shopping malls, residential communities, and building materials and appliance warehouses. The scan of the scan of the scan of the drainage road is the drainage road. The last one is the appliances buried deep in construction waste. The goals set by Su Wu at each stage are extremely clear. Home appliances and cars. For other shelters, it may not be as high as Su Wu's utilization rate. But in the end of the world, any resource is less if it is used. It is hard to guarantee that they will not become Su Wu's competitors to pick up garbage. In this case, at the beginning, it must be a race against time. Let's get the easiest part to pick up first. Chapter 55 Rich Survival Point Rewards. As for the latter, it is somewhat similar to mining. It is a mining activity that requires a large amount of labor and is carried out for a long time. At that time, you don't have to be as anxious as you are now. After all, there are only a handful of refuges that can mobilize mining-level labor force in Zhonghe City. Plus they can't take advantage of construction waste. In terms of yield, he is born to fall far behind Su Wu. The willingness to dig is far less strong than Su Wu. There will basically be no big competition. There are large trucks as communication transit. Special transport vehicles can reach up to 40 kilometers from the shelter. It can basically cover the main urban areas of Zhonghe City. If everything goes well, the gains from the first phase alone should be quite considerable. Special transport vehicles do not have specially enhanced remote communication components like large trucks. Its effective communication range is only 10 kilometers. Once it leaves the communication range, it can only rely on the onboard chip it carries to make independent judgments and operations. The risk of accidents will increase significantly. Of course, if you invest in the reconnaissance drone marshalling, form a chain-type communication line. The communication range can be extended to 60 kilometers at most. But this operation is too extreme. In addition, the reconnaissance drone is only the size of a palm, and its wind resistance is extremely weak. This communication method has a great possibility of accidents. It is also suitable for temporary emergency use in emergencies. And now, it's not necessary to take that risk. Through monitoring, 2 special transport vehicles and large trucks disappeared into the darkness outside the shelter. Su Wu drank the glass of Coke on the console and got up and left the control center. Next comes the time to rest. He has to develop a good spirit and wait for him to deal with more things tomorrow. It's midnight. The routine settlement cycle refresh of the end-of-day survival system. Current territory. Livable personal sanctuary, 99%, fixed daily survival point +3. Close black lens bracket. Construction completed primary network project, survival point +50. Close black lens bracket. Initially establish a community, survival point +150. Close black lens bracket. Current remaining survival points, 209. With the completion of the 4th floor of the refuge underground, the experience value progress bar at the refuge level has also reached a total of 99%. Just one step away from entering a new world. Su Wu's vision swept past his experience points. The following 2 tips surprised him and even confused him. The network is rewarded with 50 survival points, which can almost be said to be one of the largest single survival points he has obtained. Although the unexpected reward is so generous, it is barely reasonable considering the importance of the internet. But the reward of 150 survival points behind is a bit beyond the range of surprises, and it is even difficult to understand. Community, what is that? Su Wu thought about it for a long time, but still couldn't figure out what he had done, which triggered this huge reward. It can only be guessed literally, perhaps related to him building a network and sharing it with those around him. But no matter what, the so-called community. They all look too heavy and grand. It is far from what he is now, a private refuge that is not very important in Zhonghe City, and is qualified to access. Just treat it as a hidden game mechanic. Just get the benefits. There is no need to go into the details of anything else. After the exploration was fruitless, Su Wu simply put this matter down. Instead, he focused on that extra rich survival point. With this survival point of more than 200 points, his manufacturing center upgrade plan that he thought would be delayed could be realized in advance. Save at least 1 month, or even more than 2 months, a long time. Sitting up from the bed, Su Wu picked up the tablet computer at the head of the bed. The monitoring of the manufacturing center has been turned on. At this time, the lights were brightly lit in the manufacturing center. The only 2 engineering robots in the shelter continue to create mechanical parts. Around them, there are a bunch of weapons and ammunition. Among them are 2 narrow and long 240mm rockets. Is it expected that the manufacturing will be completed in 1 hour and 15 minutes? Su Wu took a look at the manufacturing progress given by artificial intelligence. Because Su Wu called engineering robots several times in the past 2 days ago to temporarily participate in other tasks. This batch of weapons construction tasks that should have been completed long ago have been delayed until now. Fortunately, it is not far from the end. After thinking about it, Su Wu did not interfere with the tasks of engineering robots. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. He just randomly allocated 2 construction robots to transport the weapons and ammunition that had been completed by the manufacturing center. Then the raw materials used to manufacture CNC machine tools and 3D printers are then transported into the manufacturing center. It takes at least 15 hours to manufacture these 2 large industrial pieces. I can't even hurry up, just queue up slowly. Putting down the tablet, Su Wu turned off the lights in the bedroom. Lying in bed and sleeping with peace of mind. Today's unexpected gains far exceeded expectations. I am destined to have a good dream. Early the next morning. The first message Su Wu received after getting up was the report sent back by the convoy who went to the urban area of Zhonghe City to pick up garbage. On this night he was resting. The entire fleet recovered a total of about 15 tons of metal. Among them, the damaged vehicle wreckage is mainly composed of some air conditioning units and refrigerators and washing machines. The harvest was quite satisfactory overall. However, this income will probably not last for a few days. The vehicles that pick up scattered in the urban area are far beyond Suwu's previous imagination. Even in the late night without any natural light, there are more than 20 refuges wandering among the ruins of the city. There are even teams from the official shelter. Just one night to come down. The metal garbage that is easier to pick up in the urban area is already much less visible to the naked eye. Suwu opened one of the videos sent back by a special transport vehicle. Two workers in thermal insulation suits jumped out of the car with large iron pliers, and quickly cut off the copper pipe of an air conditioner external unit, then worked together to lift the air conditioner external unit whose shell had been seriously deformed and load it into the car. In the open air cart behind. Then continue driving and drive to the next recycling site. The entire process will take no more than 5 minutes. It's terrible to be efficient. This is the speed. Suwu felt a moment of urgency. However, after thinking about it, he suppressed the urge to mobilize the whole person. Just send 2 construction robots, bring the cutting machines, and let them go to the ground and stand by. When the next large truck returns, take a ride to support it. It is a bit of making up for the shortcomings of urban fleets in micro-operation. No matter how attractive it looks, it is just extra money after all. Suwu's development focus has always been on the shelter itself. You cannot easily reverse the primary and secondary for this. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 56 Scouting and Delivery. Clean up your personal hygiene and have a simple heated breakfast. Suwu took the lifting platform directly to the 4th floor underground. Since the central air conditioner that is not directly connected to the shelter, there is a little humid and hot in the air. After only staying for more than 10 seconds, Suwu felt obviously a little uncomfortable. He didn't force himself, but simply looked around and confirmed that there were no omissions, and immediately used the survival point to solidify the 4th floor. Along with the loose wall originally built mainly of construction waste, it solidifies into a thick wall. The 4th floor underground of the refuge is announced to be completed. The engineering team originally located on this floor, except for the 2 construction robots responsible for the decoration, can all go to excavate the 5th underground floor after the temporary support bracket is removed. Completed his own task. Suwu was unwilling to stay on the 4th floor underground for more than a while and returned to the control center on the 2nd floor as quickly as possible. Begin preparing for a new day. According to the agreement with other shelters on the official chat channel the day before yesterday. He needs to provide about 650 kilograms of fresh lettuce to 8 shelters today and deliver them to his door. This is not an easy task. Especially when large trucks currently need to participate in urban scavenger picking, compete with other shelters, and their transportation capacity is very valuable. How to choose the appropriate delivery method according to the route planned the day before yesterday. It needs to be considered carefully. I looked at the sky on the surface. Although the sky is covered with thick clouds as usual. But the brightness of the light has reached the level of normal travel. Suwu launched a reconnaissance drone formation and sent the reconnaissance drone formation to high altitude through the drone lifting platform in the small bunker. The average wind speed is 5.5 meters per second and the temperature is 72.3 degrees. Flight is normal. The reconnaissance drone formation hovered slightly over the shelter. After checking the surrounding environment, confirming that it is temporarily safe. We began to recognize the delivery target from near to far according to the route planned by Suwu the day before yesterday. Soon, high-definition photos of overlooking were transmitted back by drones. Then, through analysis and processing by artificial intelligence, a 3-dimensional map with extremely high accuracy was finally drawn. Suwu carefully compared the map and studied half of the salary. I found that there are now 5 shelters at the doors, which have almost been cleaned up. You can drive the large truck directly to their doorstep. The other 3 companies are still not in good condition. The farthest place even needs to pass through a ruin that is 500 or 600 meters long. In this case, just trade in 2 batches. Suwu pondered for a moment, and soon had a stomachache in his heart. He sent messages to the 8 shelters and agreed with them in advance on delivery methods and delivery times. It is easy to say that the top 5 shelters with smooth roads are just driving them over to trade in person. If it goes well, it will probably take more than half an hour to complete. The other 3 shelters are first transported by large trucks to the end that can be driven by, and then the K2 series agricultural drones carry special insulation boxes to transport vegetables from the air. This requires certain handover skills and cooperation. It can be foreseeable that no matter whether it is unloading or loading, you will definitely encounter a lot of trouble. But there was no way, and Suwu did not expect it at that time. There is such a fierce competition in picking up scattered goods in urban areas. He was reluctant to make time to clean the road specifically. The transaction time is set at around 4 p.m. After the transaction is completed, the CNC machine tool model should be almost completed. Then it will take another 2 hours before the transaction to pick and encapsulate the lettuce leaves in the hydroponic farm. After discussing with the buyers, Suwu sorted the next things he needed to do one by one according to time. Before he knew it, when he came to his senses, he found that those to-do items had occupied nearly half of the screen. And more than an hour passed. It's a waste of time. Suwu rubbed his forehead with a headache, feeling that this was not a solution. In the future, his vegetable production will become higher and higher, and there will be breeding factories to be put into sales later. Could it be that in the future, I will just do nothing else and be a customer service and dispatcher? Maybe, I can find someone to help. Just as the thought arose, Suwu shook his head again and temporarily threw it behind his mind. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. On the premise that trust cannot be resolved. It is not a wise decision to let strangers enter their own refuge. The transaction problem has been handled. Suwu turned around and glanced at the scavenging convoy in the city. At this time, the 2 construction robots he arranged had already met with the 2 special transport vehicles in the city. After they changed their behavior, like other shelters, violently cut pipelines entangled with construction waste, the efficiency of collecting scrap metal was significantly improved. It is expected that within a maximum of 5 hours, you can bring back a car with 10 tons of home appliances and car wreckage. It's almost enough. Suwu was quite satisfied with this speed. Nearly 50 or 60 tons of metal in a day is already a very considerable income. The key is that it is still free to pick it up. Look at the time, there are still 1 or 2 hours before noon. Suwu, who was idle, logged into his own internet and randomly found several players to play a game online. Don't look at his network that has just been established and there are not many people online. But among these people, there are many serious game enthusiasts. Some have even been online for nearly 20 hours. Basically, it was since I first joined the internet and entered the game, and I never went offline again. In this case, it is not difficult for Suwu to find a companion to play. 4 o'clock in the afternoon. With the time for trading, it comes. Fresh lettuce leaves are weighed and packaged under the picking of hydroponic farm robots. Then the construction robot handled it and put it in the thermostat box, and loaded it into the carriage of the large truck that arrived on time. Suwu took a picture of the picking and loading scene and sent it to the official chat channel. Buyers are informed to be prepared. Your underground farm is so big, and the future vegetable output will definitely be more than 70 kilograms a day. It was also the first time that Wang Jianguo saw the true appearance of Suwu hydroponic farm. I felt incredible about the dense forest-like vegetable shelves. Not to mention anything else, I just want to maintain such a large-scale vegetable production base. The electricity consumed every day can drain the electricity reserves of many small and even medium-sized shelters. Chapter 57 The Farmer in the End of the World. I also saw tomatoes, purple cabbage, and what was that? Strawberry seedlings, and grape vines. A private shelter director named Miao Jun, who is very knowledgeable about agriculture, has recognized many of the vegetable and fruit seedlings in the photos who are still in their juvenile stages. He performed even more shocked than Wang Jianguo. The existence of those things means that Suwu has been separated from the most basic needs for survival and food. Have the ability and have the leisure to start pursuing higher-level luxury enjoyment. According to time calculation, if the grapes in Suwu farm ripen and the doomsday outside is not over yet, The grapes in Su Wu's hands are likely to be worth as valuable as gold. There will definitely be many wealthy refugees who are willing to spend a lot of money to buy. Not only, you look carefully at the edge of the photo, there are tulips, blue star flowers, and bird grass. There are so many flowers. Are you planning to build a garden? The family members of a senior shelter who were even more sharp-eyed appeared in the chat channel for the first time. I couldn't help but send out a series of exclamations. If fresh fruits are considered luxury goods, then flowers are purely a legendary species. At least in Zhonghe City, even the largest official shelter is impossible to cultivate these flowers with almost no practical value. It is very likely that Suwu's underground farm is the only place in Zhonghe City to grow flowers on a large scale. That's about that much lettuce production. But in the future, cabbage, spinach, cabbage, etc. will also be sold to the public. Tomatoes, green peppers, and fruits, depending on the situation. These things are not produced much, and most of them have to be kept for their own use. Looking at the lively chat channel, Suwu chose to answer several questions that most people are more concerned about. It is a wave of advertisements for our own hydroponic farm. And his action was also very effective. The discussion in the chat channel became even more lively, and many people began to include Suwu as the target of attention. His impression has also become a wealthy vegetable supplier. That's a big vegetable production area. I think you might as well change your name to the farmer. I live this life better than before the end of the world. The heavy-duty knight who had traded with Suwu once showed an unconcealed envy in his tone. Before the end of the world, he was also a rent collector of the rich level and lived the life that many people dream of. But compared with Suwu, it is just like the difference between ordinary people and him at the time. He also dreamed of an underground farm, but unfortunately, his current power supply was quite difficult to maintain his shelter, let alone take it out and plant it. The lively discussion lasted for a long time. And as more and more people see the news, some less harmonious voices suddenly appeared. Can you ask, where is your shelter? If you need it in the future, I plan to buy it on my own and save some shipping costs. Suwu's shelter address is not a secret. He has revealed relevant information in chatting more than once. Therefore, without waiting for Suwu to react, someone in the chat channel answered this question. Suwu paused his fingers while typing, and looked at the person who asked and answered calmly. In the end, he didn't say much. The surface. The delivery process of large trucks lasted for more than 2 hours in total. As Suwu had expected. Because of the need for advanced communication and cooperation, the 3 transactions transported by drones were quite troublesome. In addition, the K2 series agricultural drone also had a failure and had to return halfway. The final time spent is about an hour later than expected. And at this time, the engineering robots in the manufacturing center have completed the construction of CNC machine tools. Even 3D printers have been built in half. The deal with the shelter was completely over. Suwu hurried to the manufacturing center. Is this a CNC machine tool? Standing in front of a CNC machine tool that is as high as 5 or 6 meters and occupies a full 3 rooms. Suwu sincerely felt his own insignificance. He glanced at the manufacturing list. In order to make this huge mechanical equipment, engineering robots consumed a total of about 60 tons of metal raw materials. It also includes a large number of various rare metals. Almost all the rare material inventory in the shelter was emptied out. The resources used this are a bit too high. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Suwu frowned, but soon felt relieved. Use it as much as possible. The more materials you use, it means that fewer survival points need to be consumed. The upgraded functions are also more powerful. Reach and press your hand on the metal housing of the CNC machine tool. Lines of handwriting appeared in his vision. Requires 30 survival points. This number is a little less than expected. However, there is only one upgrade direction, and it is still CNC machine tools. Upgrade. Suwu confirmed in his heart. A ball of white light began to seep from the void into the interior of the CNC machine tool. After half a second, everything returned to its original state. New smart terminals have been discovered. Is access allowed? A prompt popped up on the tablet that Suwu carried with him at this time. That is the question that the AI responsible for controlling the entire shelter was sent after detecting new uncontrolled devices. Su Wu clicked to confirm and authorized artificial intelligence to take over CNC machine tools. The tablet's screen dimmed slightly, and a new operating interface appeared. There are quite a lot of features. The parts aspect seems to be customizable at will, with almost no restrictions. The machining accuracy is at the micron level. Production speed, yes, test it. After fiddling with the operation interface of the CNC machine tool for a while, Su Wu asked a construction robot to send the raw materials into the machine tool. Then the CNC machine tool ran for more than 10 minutes. I began to spit out a bunch of parts of different sizes one after another. Then the engineering robot stepped forward and used these newly processed parts for assembly. Soon, a standard automatic rifle appeared in the hands of engineering robots. It's much faster than the engineer robot's hand rub. If you are mass-producing unified standard parts, it should be faster. It's almost equivalent to a small universal industrial assembly line. After testing it several times, Su Wu was even surprised when the answers handed over by the CNC machine tool were satisfied. Even some parts that require high-temperature heating forged, this machine tool can be completed well. It can almost be said that in the micron level or above field, there are no metal parts that it cannot make. Chapter 58 CNC Machine Tools and 3D Printers. After the test is completed, Su Wu issued the first formal manufacturing task to this CNC machine tool that may have reached the top performance in the world on the spot. Assist the engineering robot to build the unfinished 3D printer. With the help of CNC machine tools, the manufacturing progress of the engineering robot seems to have been pressed by a fast-forward key of tens of times. The work that originally took 6 or 7 hours to complete was directly compressed to less than half an hour. Su Wu simply did not leave the manufacturing center. Standing near the manufacturing station, watching the two engineering robots and CNC machine tools work. It wasn't until they were made that they were a few steps ahead. Compared with the huge size of CNC machine tools, the 3D printer is much smaller, almost half a room in size. But it consumes a lot of resources. At least, with the current material reserves of Su Wu's shelter, it is basically impossible to manufacture a second 3D printer. Reach and press on the metal housing of the 3D printer with warmth. The new upgrade option pops up in Su Wu's field of view. Select to upgrade, comprehensive 3D printer. Su Wu chose the most expensive upgrade option. The survival point in your hand disappeared in an instant by 50 points. White light is blooming. A device that emits silver-white metal light was quietly born. Upgraded 3D printer. Printed articles including metal and non-metallic materials such as rubber, glass, etc. may be used. The production efficiency is much lower than that of CNC machine tools. But the advantage is that the items can be shaped arbitrarily without being restricted by the material. You can also print out more precise parts. Even if the materials provided are sufficient, some low-end micro-scale chips can be printed. This is especially important for a refuge controlled and managed by artificial intelligence and full of technological attributes. Having mastered the production equipment, let's solve the material reserve problem. Next, we will be able to overpower production capacity. The line of sight is on two industrial heavyweights, CNC machine tools and 3D printers, which are currently priceless. Su Wu couldn't help but feel ambition for the future. Even larger, urban underground shelters and endless automation machinery and equipment may no longer exist only in fantasy. But want to turn fantasy into reality. There are still many levels that are difficult to overcome before Su Wu. The first is the material quality issue. Unlike the manual operation of engineering robots, the quality requirements of CNC machine tools and 3D printers for raw materials are almost several levels higher. In this case, most of the materials removed from the used household appliances in Su Wu's shelter cannot be used directly. It must be further disassembled and rebuilt. It just so happened that the fourth floor underground of the refuge has been completed. There is now demand. Let's start by building a production line that dismantles and smells waste metal. Faced with the first problem that needs to be solved by explosive production capacity, Su Wu naturally thought of the fourth floor space where the renovation has not been officially completed and the layout of the line and pipelines has not been arranged. follow the original plan. The fourth floor would have been used to build a small industrial area integrating disassembly, smelting and production. Now, since the performance of CNC machine tools far exceeds expectations, it provides strong production and manufacturing capabilities. The part of the original plan about the small production line can be discarded directly. The space freed can be used to build larger-scale dismantling and smelting equipment. But we can't fill up the area. A little more space needs to be left to assemble large vehicles and equipment like trucks. With the emergence of CNC machine tools and 3D printers, the originally spacious manufacturing center has begun to appear a little crowded. The territory left for engineering robot assembly is quite limited. In this case, if you want to assemble some large objects, you must find another place. The fourth floor underground is almost the only option right now. Start build. Plan the layout of the 4 underground floors. Su Wu immediately started working on the spot. A large amount of finished steel and other raw materials began to be continuously transported to the manufacturing center by construction robots and put into CNC machine tools and 3D printers. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. And at this moment, Su Wu suddenly received an alarm from artificial intelligence. A suspicious team appeared near the surface of the shelter. Su Wu switched the screen on the tablet to the surveillance. With the help of artificial intelligence logo, the target was quickly discovered. It was a team of about 10 people, wearing heat insulation suits and holding guns. They wandered within 2 or 3 kilometers of a radius around the small bunker on the ground, and were using telescopes and drones to observe the surface facilities of the entire shelter. Not far behind them, there were several construction vehicles parked. It seems to be a tool to be used for forcibly dismantling after Su Wu closed the gate of the shelter. It's coming very quickly. I don't even want to wait for the night. Su Wu had no unexpected expression on his face. He knew that there was a high probability that he might encounter this scene after he exposed the size of the hydroponics factory. But I didn't expect that the person who peeped in secret would be so impatient that he was not willing to wait for more than a few hours. He brought people here in broad daylight. Detect reconnaissance drones and shoot battlefield videos. The K2 series agricultural drones are starting to load rockets and are ready to be on standby. Enable 120mm howitzers and destroy them. The engineering team that was digging the 5th floor of the underground was not even suspended, and the gate to the shelter exit passage was not closed. Su Wu simply issued several combat orders to artificial intelligence. Soon, with the drone lifting platform, a reconnaissance drone was sent into the air, bringing the surrounding area into the surveillance perspective. A massacre that was almost unilaterally began to erupt without warning. It is more than 1,000 meters away from the small bunker on the ground. A person who looked like a captain seemed to notice something abnormal. He raised his head, trying to find the source of his inner uneasiness. And the next moment, his pupils contracted violently. He saw a shell falling from the sky and hitting near his 2 companions hundreds of meters away. Then the next second, infinite fire bloomed like fireworks. It instantly covered nearly 100 meters of surrounding area. Swallowed his companions completely. He couldn't help but open his mouth wide, and was so shocked that he felt his hands and feet weak. What is this? Didn't they come with guns to find trouble for a private shelter in the civil society? How could you encounter such a terrible attack? However, on the battlefield, being dazed is an extremely fatal thing. Chapter 59 The Upgraded Chaos. A few seconds later, another shell broke through the air and smashed towards him. This time he is no longer so lucky. A large amount of burning fire melted his insulation suit and burned his muscles and bones through. It eventually turned into an unrecognizable remains of a body. A silently suspended reconnaissance drone in the sky. Quietly record everything that happened on the ground. This short battle, starting from the attack of artificial intelligence, it took 40 seconds, and a total of 4 120mm aluminum thermal shells were fired. The result was that 12 targets were all destroyed. The firearms and weapons they carried were not fired until the last second before their death. Half an hour later, back at the control center, Su Wu found the identity of the group from the construction robots who cleaned the battlefield. A group of mercenaries who have just been established. The members have various identities, most of them are security guards and criminals before the end of the world. It belongs to a group of gangsters who have rich experience in fighting but lack real military literacy. Enjoy them with a 120mm howitzer. Isn't it a bit too much? Su Wu couldn't help but reflect. Of course, if he encounters the same situation next time, he will still do this. If you can solve the problem with shells, you don't need construction robots to take risks with small water pipes like guns. Moreover, heavy artillery can also better establish authority. It's a pity that I didn't find the clues behind the scenes. Who will it be? Su Wu did not intend to end this matter. There is no reason why he can escape without hitting him. It must be found out and given a heavy blow to retaliate. As for how to find it, start with the person who asked his address in the chat channel and check it slowly. As long as you are willing to pay a bounty, you will be able to find the other party sooner or later. Choose a few photos from the battlefield photos taken by the reconnaissance drone. Su Wu sent them to the official chat channel. It's not that he doesn't want to send videos, but that the official channel restricts the sending of videos. Official satellite network. Resources are limited, and basically only the most basic communication can be guaranteed. But even if it is just a photo, the scene created by the explosion of a large amount of aluminum thermal agent is extremely impactful. A group of gun gangsters invaded my shelter. They have been wiped out at this time. The relevant evidence will be handed over to the official security office after it is sorted out. A few brief explanations for these photos. Su Wu no longer followed the Storm channel, but instead found the official representative in the channel, the rich second-generation female officer who had dealt with him, Yi Luoshuanghua. How does the official deal with this now? Su Wu asked. Just solve it yourself. No need to report. Yi Luoshuanghua's reply was quick, and the content was so straightforward that Su Wu was surprised. So relaxed, don't you go to investigate. What else is investigating? It's just some armed gangs raised in private in some shelters. It's not the first time they have done this. The leaves fall and the frost reveal a sense of habit and helplessness. What the above now means is to do our best to deal with the worse extreme environment in the future. As long as the matter between other shelters on the ground is not a fierce battle in the urban area, or the incident outside the urban area is too large and the number of casualties is too large, it will be temporarily put on hold. One time. And talk about this. If you want to say too much, you are the one who is the most overdoing. We have all made heavy artillery. Are we planning to fight a war with the military in the future? Yi Luoshuanghua's words did not mean to question, but she was a little surprised by Su Wu's manufacturing ability. In other shelters, even if they do bad things, they just make some pistols and rifles, and at most they can get some explosives for breaking the door. When it comes to Su Wu's side, he just needs to get the heavy artillery directly. Also used as aluminum thermal agent with extremely strong lethality and armor-breaking effect. To be honest, this configuration can have some effect when used to fight the military's armored forces. Beating those civil armed teams is simply bullying children. Just protect yourself. You can't let me fight to face them with a gun. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. Seeing that Yi Luoshuanghua had no intention of pursuing it, Su Wu's tone became casual. I began to have the leisure to test the official attitude. If you say so, it should be fine to get my revenge on those shelters. Don't make too much noise. For example, move your heavy artillery to the door of someone's shelter. As long as the others are not exposed, there will be no big problem. Yi Luoshuanghua revealed the official bottom line, and at the end, she couldn't help but add a few more words. If you want to fight those shelters with a size of over 100 people, remember to keep the evidence of the other party's crime. Otherwise, the military may be regarded as a typical case of chaos and focus on attacks. Also, you should also pay attention to it in the official channel, don't say what you shouldn't say. Otherwise, you can only deal with it strictly and quickly. I understand, I will consider it carefully before the action. Su Wu was silent for a while and then typed his last sentence. The conversation ended. He switched to the chat channel, looked at the people there, and the discussion was in full swing. He looked fearless and couldn't help but sigh. There are many people here, even as local tyrants and enterprises in power. In some ways, it is considered a human elite. However, due to the past fixed thinking patterns, there are still limited information channels. I'm afraid they are still immersed in false peace. Perhaps it is only possible for you to encounter it yourself, or it will not be able to hide it until one day in the future. Only then will I suddenly realize that the cruel side of the end of the world will come so quickly, even so fast that I will not give anyone any time to react. It's just a high temperature of more than 70 degrees, and there's just a storm. As for getting so messy. After a moment of melancholy over the passing order, Su-Wu regained his spirits. He thought of the convoy currently picking up garbage in the city and began to seriously consider whether he wanted to strengthen his armed forces for them. Although Yi Luoshuang was said that it was prohibited from using force in the urban area, it was completely doubtful that it was true. Judging from the style they showed, I am afraid that as long as it is not exposed, it can be regarded as non-existent. Put it a folding shooting platform for 2 special transport vehicles. Then a large truck will add a construction robot dedicated to alert and combat, and a K2 series agricultural drone. Well, just weld a 30mm rapid-fire cannon on the top of the car. For Su-Wu, who now has CNC machine tools and 3D printers, some automatic weapons and turrets, plus a drone that can fire rockets. Not really anything too important. Chapter 60 Luxury Goods. As long as he thinks, except for the drone, there are still some difficulties in the moment, a bunch of other weapons can be made at any time. Of course, there is no advanced gunpowder formula. The quality of ammunition will be subject to certain restrictions, and its destructiveness and stability are not as powerful as military use. However, it is enough to just deter and deal with some civilian armed raids. In the chat channel, because of the lack of Su-Wu's participation, the sensation brought by those photos gradually subsided. However, in the hearts of many senior officials of the shelter, Su-Wu not only has the identity of a vegetable supplier, but also has an additional label that is strong and armed and cannot be easily provoked. It can be foreseeable that in future transactions, Su-Wu will invisibly reduce a lot of trouble. Early in the morning, a new day is coming. The level of Su-Wu Sanctuary has also been promoted to the next stage with the daily routine refresh of the system. Current territory. Wealthy Personal Sanctuary, 0%, fixed daily survival point +4. Close black lens bracket. Industrial productivity has been greatly improved, with survival point +25. Close black lens bracket. Current remaining survival points, 158. New panel. The hierarchy of the shelter is upgraded from a livable individual shelter to a wealthy individual shelter. Compared to the last shelter promotion, only a small amount of one-time survival point was rewarded. This time, the fixed daily survival point reward number has been increased by a little forever. In addition, the industrial productivity brought by the newly added CNC machine tools and 3D printers has greatly improved, and the rewarded survival points are more or less appropriate. Not much or little. Su-Wu was not very disappointed with this. The significant increase in industrial productivity has brought much more than this survival point reward. As long as you make good use of the subsequent use, the saved survival points may exceed the reward several times, or even dozens or hundreds of times. The next few days, when Su-Wu spared no expense to supply all the standards-compliant raw materials in the shelter in the past. CNC machine tools and 3D printers turn on endless machining mode. A large number of standard parts are beginning to be continuously manufactured. Then transport to the underground layer 4 for assembly and welding. An industrial equipment recycling center with a high-temperature furnace is the core and has both dismantling and classification functions has gradually established its prototype. And at the same time, because there are too many resources tilted into this recycling center, Su-Wu had to pause the expansion plan of the engineering team and the scavenging fleet. Even the excavation of the 5th floor underground of the refuge has been affected to a certain extent. This made Su-Wu feel relieved that the construction of the recycling center is progressing rapidly, but he was inevitably a little sad and anxious. It is obvious that rationally knows that this is the most correct and efficient approach. But I watched the trash-picking convoy day by day. Because of its limited scale, I could only allow a large amount of scrap metal on the roadside to be picked up by other shelters. Looking at the expansion of the shelter, the efficiency has dropped significantly due to the lack of engineering robots for centering materials and repairs. Still can't help feeling unacceptable. This is probably the so-called pain and happiness. But eliminate these troublesome things. In the case where all daily things in the shelter are managed by artificial intelligence. In fact, there are not many things that really need Suwu to do in person. Suwu also ushered in a rare leisure time. The ground floor of the refuge. Hydroponic farm. Suwu strolls between the green vegetable growing racks. It has suitable temperature and sufficient nutrient supply, and careful care of farm robots. These vegetables thrive more than their kind that once grew in the most fertile land on the ground. The green leaves are stained with crystal clear water droplets, beautiful like works of art. It looks pleasing to the eye. Walk through the vegetable area. It is an area decorated with dozens of flowers of different colors. Because when planting, it is approaching, or it is just the flowering period. After another month of careful care, it is now the time for them to bloom the most. Suwu stopped. Quietly admire this artificial sea of flowers, or flower wall. The blooming flowers and the faint fragrance of flowers lingering in the air made his mood calm. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. After a long time, he came to his senses and took a casual photo of this particularly precious and rare view in the apocalypse with his carry-on tablet. Upload to your own internet. Hopefully at the end of the Doomsday. These flowers can bloom again on the earth. At the same time. Somewhere more than 10 kilometers away from Suwu Sanctuary. As an ordinary member of a small business shelter, Wang Hao, who was surfing the internet with his mobile phone, almost simultaneously shot the video shot by Suwu. At first he even thought that someone had brought up the videos from before the end of the world. But as he noticed the closed walls and occasionally exposed growth lights in the video. There is also a golden administrator logo behind the account that sends the video. He quickly realized that this was not an old video in stock, but a real-time scene shot. The different shooting time brings a very different viewing experience. Wang Hao put away his casual thoughts and unconsciously sat upright. Click on the video again and watch it repeatedly one frame after another. These flowers were not uncommon before the end of the world. At this time, his eyes were no less than seeing the most luxurious thing in the world. And this is indeed the case. In an era when even people are in danger of being safe and can only survive and hide in the dark underground. The price to raise those fragile flowers is even enough to save countless lives on the verge of death. Whose shelter is this? So many flowers have been planted. It's so luxurious. It is not far from Wang Hao in a straight line. Li Linsong, the director of the small business shelter where he is, also saw this short video. As a manager, Li Linsong's mentality is subtly different from that of Wang Hao. The first reaction he saw was the cost of growing these flowers and how much food could be exchanged for in equal amounts. Then the conversion result made him feel distressed and pump the air conditioner. Anyway, he cannot invest so much resources in these things that are only of ornamental value. Of course, it may also be that even if he is willing to invest, he cannot afford to raise so many flowers. Planting space, energy, nutrients, and people taking care of them. All kinds of investments are a very heavy burden. It is not a refuge that is rich enough to be wasted at will. No one is qualified to fiddle with this real luxury. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.